Chapter 1087. What do you think? Zhao Shui asked. Lin Xian was slightly surprised. He did not expect Zhao Shui to ask him. After pondering for a moment, he said slowly, "Logically speaking, such an important place should be protected by layers of formations. But there's nothing here. Don't you think it's strange?" Hearing this, Zhao Shui nodded gently. Lin Xian continued, "There must be a reason for this abnormality. So I think this dragon ball must be very evil. Or rather, there are dangers here that we don't know about. Your analysis is about the same as mine," Zhao Shui said softly. Then, she moved her jade-like feet and walked forward. It seemed that she wanted to deal with the sea monsters in front of her. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. To be honest, he also wanted to obtain this dragon ball because the energy contained in it was too powerful. If he could obtain it, he would definitely be able to improve his cultivation again. So, seeing Zhao Shui move forward, Lin Xian also took a deep breath and moved forward again. Seeing this scene, the disciples of Senmu College were shocked. They had only taken a few steps, but they were almost affected by the dragon ball and lost their minds. Lin Xian was closer to it than they were, but nothing happened. Now, he was even moving forward. The gap between them was simply too great. The people of Divine Bird Palace were even more gloomy. They glared at Lin Xian fiercely, wanting to eat him up. "Damn it, this kid is too strange. He can get so close. Is he not afraid of the Dragon Ball's influence? How is that possible? This kid is too arrogant. Just watch, he will be in trouble soon. Yes, maybe he will lose his mind soon and become a pile of bones," the disciples of Divine Bird Palace said fiercely. However, to their disappointment, Lin Xian was not affected at all. In the end, he even arrived in front of the two dragon pillars. Looking at the lifelike dragon pillars, Lin Xian was amazed. However, he did not act rashly. The dragon ball had too much influence on him at this moment. If he made the slightest mistake, he would be affected. It could be said that although Lin Xian appeared to be safe, he was actually in grave danger. However, when Lin Xian activated the Great Dragon Sword Soul, all the effects disappeared. The Great Dragon Sword Soul was an offensive saint art that could destroy everything. Therefore, even if the dragon orb was very strange, it could not fight against the Great Dragon Sword Soul. In fact, the moment Lin Xian activated the Great Dragon Sword Soul, the dragon pearl trembled slightly before releasing an even more demonic light. Lin Xian noticed this. Could it be that the dragon pearl is afraid of the Great Dragon Sword Spirit? Thinking of this, he was overjoyed. If that was really the case, then that would be great. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian extended his hand and slowly reached for the two dragon pillars. The next moment, he touched the dragon pillar. On the two dragon pillars, two real dragons were engraved, circling each other. At this moment, Lin Xian's hand gently brushed past them, causing a sudden fluctuation of energy. Lin Xian was overjoyed because he felt that the two dragon pillars also contained powerful energy. Although it was not as powerful as the dragon orb, it was still very amazing. More importantly, Lin Xian could now come into contact with it. Seeing this scene, everyone was extremely envious, while the people of the Divine Bird Palace gritted their teeth. "Damn it, why is he still okay? Impossible, this is an illusion, this must be an illusion. Damn, how is it possible, he really touched the dragon pillar?" The people of the Divine Bird Palace felt like they were going crazy, and even the elders' faces were gloomy. However, at this moment, an angry voice came from behind, like the roar of a savage beast. "Stupid humans, how dare you disturb the Dragon King's rest, you will all die." This voice was filled with endless anger. When everyone heard this, they were shocked and turned around. Then, they saw a sea demon rushing over quickly. He was still injured, as if he had just gone through a great battle. "Prime Minister Hai, this group of humans wants to snatch the dragon orb," a few of the surviving sea demons screamed. Prime Minister Hai rushed over quickly, and when he saw the sea demon corpses all over the ground, he was so angry that he trembled. "Damn humans, how dare you kill the people of the Sea Clan, The Dragon King will not let you go! Everyone's faces changed because Prime Minister Hai's aura was too powerful, almost having the strength of a seventh heaven venerable. For such a person, no one among them could stop him except for Zhao Shui. However, what shocked them even more was that this powerful Prime Minister Hai seemed to be injured, and the injuries were fresh. Who was it that could actually injure Prime Minister Hai? Just as everyone was puzzled, another earth-shaking shout came from behind them, accompanied by a terrifying aura that overflowed into the sky. The next moment, countless figures rushed over from afar, bringing with them a powerful torrent, and their momentum was terrifying. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned, and even Lin Xian frowned. Because there were too many people, and it was almost the same as the team of Senmu College and the Divine Bird Palace. Such a team was in existence that could not be ignored, not to mention that they were here for the Dragon Orb. Moreover, there was a powerful aura of a seventh heaven venerable. This made even Elder Song and the others' faces turn gloomy. The leader was a middle-aged man, dressed in a silver robe, holding a folding fan in his hand, and as he waved it, it brought with it surging waves. "You're courting death!" Prime Minister Hai saw that those people were chasing him, and he was furious. In a flash, he came near the Dragon Orb and quickly waved the staff in his hand. "Dragon King, please bestow me with power!" As he chanted, the Dragon Orb above suddenly bloomed with a dazzling light, and a dragon-shaped spiritual power flew out from the Dragon Orb and entered Prime Minister Hai's body. Immediately, Prime Minister Hai's face lit up, and a low sound came from his body, like muffled thunder. A layer of light gushed out and enveloped him. Petty tricks, no matter what you use, it's futile. Stay here," the middle-aged man with the fan said coldly, like an emperor. The next moment, he waved the folding fan in his hand, and a huge curved wind blade appeared. The sea water was mercilessly cut open in an instant, and the entire underwater world seemed to be cut in half. The middle-aged man was a seventh heaven venerable, so his attack was naturally terrifying, and its power was shocking. The azure wind blade was like a heavenly blade, and it ruthlessly landed on Prime Minister Hai's body. Bang! A violent trembling sound rang out, spreading in all directions. Light bloomed on Prime Minister Hai's body, forming the strongest armor to protect his body. This energy came from the Dragon Orb above, and it was mysterious. Although there was only one, it was still very terrifying. The aura contained in it was not something that a venerable could understand. Therefore, this huge wind blade did not cause any damage to the light at all. What? Seeing this, the middle-aged man with the fan had a very ugly expression. Chapter 1088. When the huge wind blade struck Prime Minister Hai's body, it emitted a sonorous rumble. However, to everyone's surprise, the terrifying attack only emitted a deafening sound and did not cause any substantial damage to Prime Minister Hai. What? How is this possible? The middle-aged man with the folding fan was extremely shocked. His face was filled with horror. This was completely beyond his expectations because not long ago, Prime Minister Hai had been beaten to the point of vomiting blood and had fled with serious injuries. However, in just a short moment, his opponent had become so powerful that he could ignore his attack. This was too strange. The cultivators that followed the middle-aged man were also shocked. They were all dumbfounded. However, at this moment, Prime Minister Hai moved. He waved the staff in his hand, forming a huge blue light that surged forward like a wave. In an instant, the middle-aged man was beaten back. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene because the middle-aged man was a 7th Heavenly Layer Exalt Realm expert. However, he was actually unable to defeat a sea demon. This was simply too shocking. Lin Xian also frowned. He did not stay and quickly left the dragon pillar. He realized that the reason why Prime Minister Hai was so powerful was because he had used the energy within the dragon pearl. He retreated to a safe place and silently observed the situation ahead. In front, the middle-aged man stabilized his body with a shocked expression. However, in the next moment, a powerful aura erupted from his body and he attacked again. Prime Minister Hai sneered and quickly waved his staff. Immediately, the two attacks collided again. The seventh heavenly layer venerable was beaten back again with a pale face. Seeing this scene, everyone was silent. Lin Xian's frown deepened. He realized that Prime Minister Hai's attack did not have any profound technique, but the energy it contained was extremely terrifying. It was completely using energy to crush. However, the suppression of power was the most difficult to resist. Unless the other party had a supreme technique like the Great Dragon Sword Spirit like him, only then would they be able to fight above their level. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to defeat this sea demon. Dragon King Tsunami! After repelling the middle-aged man with one move, Prime Minister Hai shouted again. This time, he raised the staff in his hand high and connected it to the dragon pearl above. A blue energy wave was emitted from the staff and spread to the surroundings. In an instant, it enveloped the entire dragon palace. In the next moment, all the martial artists present were horrified. This was because they discovered that the spiritual energy in their bodies was disappearing at a rapid rate. This phenomenon was too terrifying. Because the martial artists had lost their spiritual power, it was difficult for them to display any strength. And now, the situation was so dangerous. Without spiritual power, they could not fight against the sea demons. Lin Xian also felt the loss of spirit energy in his body. At the same time, he quickly used his soul force to carefully investigate. He found that the lost spirit energy was all flowing into the dragon ball in front of him. As for the dragon ball, it shone even brighter. With a cold snort, Lin Xian operated the great dragon sword soul in his body and quickly cut off this connection. In the next moment, the spiritual energy in his body returned to normal and no longer flowed out. However, the others were not so lucky. They could not escape the deprivation of the dragon balls. However, they would not sit still and wait for death. The middle-aged man, who was a seventh layer venerable, shouted, "Are you from Senmu College and Divine Bird Palace? We are from Merry Woods. The current situation is very dangerous. I think we should join forces." Okay. Elder Song did not hesitate and immediately agreed. The Divine Bird Palace also quickly responded. There was no other way. In the current situation, they could not get rid of it alone. Only by joining forces could they have a chance. After receiving the response from Senmu College and Divine Bird Palace, the seventh layer Venerable's confidence was greatly boosted. He led the disciples of Merry Woods and quickly counterattacked. Elder Song and the elders of Divine Bird Palace also burst out the energy in their bodies and attacked with all their strength. Senmu College, Divine Bird Palace, and Merry Woods were all super forces. Their disciples were all geniuses. Coupled with a group of powerful elders and a seventh heavenly layer venerable expert, their combined strength was incomparably terrifying. Everyone attacked. Terrifying energy erupted, and the entire dragon palace shook violently. Even if Prime Minister Hai used the energy in the dragon ball, he still felt very tired in the face of such a terrifying counterattack. Not only that, the seventh layer venerable joined forces with the older generation and attacked crazily, quickly besieging Prime Minister Hai. "We must kill him, or we will all die today!" The seventh layer venerable roared. His voice shook the sky and spread in all directions. It was related to their lives, so the disciples did not hold back. They attacked crazily and attacked with all their strength. Prime Minister Hai himself was only a seventh layer venerable. With his strength, he could not resist such a big scene. It was only by relying on the energy in the dragon ball that it was able to contend against it. However, with his cultivation, he could only use the energy roughly. He could not exert the full power of the energy. This gave everyone a chance. As everyone attacked crazily, Prime Minister Hai became more and more exhausted. He kept retreating, and his face became pale. In the end, he retreated to the two dragon pillars. With his back against them, he resisted with difficulty. Although he was suppressed by everyone, with the support of the energy in the dragon ball, he would not be defeated for a while. So, the scene was in a stalemate. However, the more they fought, the more anxious they became. Because they were different from Prime Minister Hai. Prime Minister Hai had the support of the Dragon Ball. It could be said that his energy was limitless. But they were different. They were deprived by the Dragon Ball, and the spiritual energy in their bodies was disappearing at all times. The longer they delayed, the weaker they became. And the Dragon Ball would become stronger after absorbing their spiritual energy. So, this was a dead end for them. Destroy the Dragon Pillars. We can't be lenient, the seventh layer Venerable roared. Immediately, everyone's attacks changed. They attacked the Dragon Pillar behind Prime Minister Hai. Although they did not know what the Dragon Pillar was used for, since it was connected to the Dragon Ball, it had to be destroyed. Rumble! Everyone's attacks were powerful, causing the sturdy Dragon Pillar to shake non-stop. Cracks appeared on the last Dragon Pillar. Seeing this, Prime Minister Hai's expression changed. Then, he shouted, "Black Turtle General, come out!" Immediately, a black hole appeared on the other Dragon Pillar. Then, a huge black shadow appeared and quickly grew. Boom! In the end, the black shadow landed on the ground, causing the entire Dragon Palace to shake again. In front of everyone, a mountain-sized sea demon appeared. Accompanying it was a wave of demonic chi. Looking at the sea demon, everyone's pupils shrank. Fear rose from the bottom of their hearts. Chapter 1089. The sea demon's body was as large as a mountain, and a terrifying demonic aura spread in all directions. It roared angrily like thunder, shaking the heavens and earth. Everyone looked up in horror and found that it was a black tortoise. It was the one that had escaped after being injured by Zhao Shui. However, at this moment, the injuries on its body had already healed, and it seemed to be stronger than before. This was too shocking. It should be known that those injuries could not be healed in such a short period of time. However, this sea demon was standing in front of everyone, as good as new. Could it be because of the Dragon Pillar? Lin Xian frowned because he knew that this giant black tortoise came out of the Dragon Pillar. There must be some relationship between the two. Under the command of Prime Minister Hai, the giant black tortoise tribe expert roared and launched a fierce attack on the crowd. However, Zhao Shui snorted coldly. Her body was like a ray of light as she dashed forward. "Bastard, you're courting death!" She raised her hand and threw a series of palm shadows at the black tortoise tribe expert. However, the invitation this time was beyond her expectations. The black tortoise tribe expert was nourished by the energy of the Dragon Pearl and became extremely powerful. However, Zhao Shui was affected by the Dragon Pearl and lost her spiritual power. Therefore, Zhao Shui was at a disadvantage in the battle. With the black tortoise tribe expert joining the battle, Prime Minister Hai, who was at a disadvantage, recovered and launched a fierce attack. "No, we can't hold on for long. Let's retreat." Elder Song's face changed because he found that there was not much spiritual power left in his body. If this continued, they would be the unlucky ones to lose. The elders of the Divine Bird Palace nodded quickly because they were also in a bad situation. Therefore, under the leadership of the elders, the disciples retreated and temporarily left the Dragon Palace. Once they left the Dragon Palace, the experts of the three major sects cast a defensive light screen. Then, they sat cross-legged on the ground and quickly recovered their spiritual power. They had no choice. They had used too much spiritual power and had to recuperate. Lin Xian also sat cross-legged and quickly activated the long life secret art to recover his spiritual power. At the same time, he kept thinking about how to break this stalemate. In Dragon Palace, the strong cultivator of the Xian Turtle clan entered the Dragon Pillar again. Prime Minister Hai's face was gloomy. He quickly used the energy of the Dragon Pearl to restore one of the Dragon Pillars. Although the humans were temporarily repelled this time, he didn't dare to be careless at all because just a moment ago, those despicable humans had almost shattered one of the Dragon Pillars. If the Dragon Pillar were to shatter, then it would be troublesome. Therefore, he did not dare to be the slightest bit careless, and quickly used the energy inside the Dragon Ball to repair it. Outside the Dragon Palace, everyone was recovering quickly. Zhao Shui was dressed in white and looked like a fairy. She said coldly, "When we attack again, I will do my best to hold back the black tortoise. As for the rest, it's all up to you." You must break that dragon pillar. Don't worry, we'll do our best as well, the 7th level venerated realm expert from Marywood said in a deep voice. Elder Song and the other elders quickly nodded their heads. They decided that this time, they had to give it their all and break the dragon pillar. This time, everyone had suffered heavy losses. Therefore, they rested for 3 days. During these 3 days, everyone was recovering here. Lin Xian was an exception. Because he had already cut off the power of the Dragon Ball, he didn't consume much spiritual power. Therefore, while everyone was resting, he quickly took out the 1000-beast cauldron and some supreme-grade spiritual herbs and began to refine pills. The Crimson Dragon set up a layer of array around Lin Xian. Then, it lay on the ground and took out some supreme spiritual herbs and began to consume them. This scene immediately attracted the attention of the crowd. Many people drooled when they saw the supreme-grade spirit herb, especially those from Divine Bird Palace. Their faces were gloomy, and they were going crazy. Damn it, these spiritual herbs were originally ours. It's all because of this despicable brat. I can't stand it. How dare he refine pills in front of all of us? Despicable. Humph, he definitely won't succeed. Damn it, that snake swallowed it directly. What a waste! I really want to catch him and eat snake soup. A group of disciples from Divine Bird Palace gritted their teeth in anger. Lin Xian ignored them. He quickly entered the state of mind and began to refine pills. Gradually, the older generation figures were jolted awake. Even the 7th level venerated realm expert revealed an expression of shock. This was because they found that Lin Xian was refining 7th level pills. He can refine 7th level pills at such a young age. He's really amazing. Many people were shocked. Soon, he refined a furnace of pills. These pills were refined according to the prescription left by Niwa of Gojoseon. They were all pills that could improve one's cultivation. At this moment, they were perfect for Lin Xian. After putting away the 10,000 bee sting, Lin Xian picked up a pill and quickly consumed it. Then, he ran the longevity secret art and absorbed it with all his might. In this way, everyone was recovering their strength while Lin Xian was cultivating. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In these 3 days, Lin Xian's cultivation had improved a lot and had reached the peak of the 4th level Venerable Realm. It seemed shocking, but in fact, it was easy to understand. The spiritual herbs in Lin Xian's hands were extremely precious. They were all extinct spiritual herbs and were very old. They could be said to be rare treasures. Not to mention refining them into pills, just consuming them directly could improve a warrior's cultivation by a large margin. Moreover, Lin Xian still had the prescription left behind by the king and the 10,000 bee sting. It could be said that the effects of the pills he refined were amazing. That was why he could improve his cultivation by a large margin in 3 days. Of course, this kind of situation was very rare. If Lin Xian hadn't picked the supreme-grade spiritual herbs, he wouldn't have been able to accomplish such a feat after eating a few more furnaces of pills. I'll probably be able to reach the 5th level Venerable Realm. Lin Xian thought in his heart. Of course, if he could obtain the Dragon Ball, it would be even better. If he could improve his cultivation quickly, it wouldn't be a dream for him to break through to the 6th level Venerable Realm. Thinking of this, Lin Xian's eyes burned with passion. At this time, most people had recovered. The 7th level Venerable Realm from Marywood stood up and held the fan in his hand tightly. His eyes were frightening. Zhao Shui also stood up and her beautiful eyes shone with a deep light. At the same time, Elder Song and the other seniors were also ready. They were full of fighting spirit. This time, they must take down the Dragon Palace. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless figures set off and charged into the Dragon Palace. Dragon King Tsunami! Prime Minister Hai roared and waved his staff. A terrifying energy enveloped the Dragon Palace. A strange and frightening power enveloped everyone. However, with the experience of the previous battle, everyone had a plan to deal with it. In the next moment, they all attacked to resist the energy. Muffled sounds like thunder rang out. It was the sound of energy colliding. Endless waves surged and the entire dragon palace trembled. At the same time, Zhao Shui and the 7th level Venerable attacked. Chapter 1090. Everyone worked together and attacked again. The fan in Marywood's 7th level Venerate's hand quickly enlarged and fell down. It was like a phoenix flapping its wings, creating a strong gale that swept downwards. This attack was extremely terrifying. It was as if the one waving it was not a human, but an ancient demonic bird. In the next moment, the entire dragon palace was filled with violent heavenly winds. The terrifying heavenly winds enveloped the entire dragon palace. Countless people were terrified and activated their defenses to resist. Fortunately, this attack was not directed at them, so they only suffered from the aftershocks. There was no danger to their lives. This was not an ordinary attack. It was an Earth-class martial art, Heavenly Wind Rend. A powerful wind-type martial art, coupled with the 7th level Venerate's half-Earth-class artifact, made this attack extremely powerful. It was enough to devour the heavens and split the earth. Fortunately, the Dragon Palace was very special and powerful. If it were any other city, it would have been torn apart. However, even so, the Crystal Dragon Palace was not spared. Especially when everyone's target, the 2 dragon pillars, was enveloped by the heavenly winds and cracks appeared on one of them. This time, the cracks were even bigger than before. It was as if the dragon pillar would shatter at any moment. After using this attack, Marywood's 7th level Venerate heaved a sigh of relief. Although this attack consumed a lot of his energy, the effect was very obvious. Was this the strength of a 7th level Venerate? How terrifying! This attack was comparable to everyone's combined energy. Many people were shocked because the dragon pearl had shattered because of everyone's combined efforts. This time, the 7th level Venerate had created the same effect by himself. In fact, it was even better. This result indeed shocked everyone to the core. Good job, Martial Uncle Show! Mighty Heavenly Wind Rend! Marywood's disciples cheered happily. However, in the next moment, their eyes widened and they fell into shock again. This was because Zhao Shui had also attacked. Above, spiritual energy fluctuated and a huge eye appeared. It was like the eye of the heavens. Void Sky Eye! At this moment, Zhao Shui's body emitted a terrifying aura. She was like a god that could see through everything. Everyone felt her gaze and their hearts beat wildly. It was as if all their secrets were exposed under the sun. There was nowhere to hide. At the same time, the Void Sky also unleashed an attack. It was as if that gaze could see through the mountains, rivers, and starry sky. Those eyes were too terrifying, as if they were looking down on all life. Suddenly, the Dragon Palace trembled violently, as if it was about to be destroyed under this gaze. Rumble! Under the attack of the Void Heaven Eye, the dragon pillar that had cracks on it completely shattered. Bang! The dragon pillar shattered, collapsing in all directions. What kind of eye technique is this? It's so terrifying! Prime Minister Hai was extremely shocked. He didn't expect a human to have such a terrifying eye technique attack. It was completely out of his imagination. The other half of the crowd was also shocked. Void Sky Eye, the legendary eye technique that disappeared! Marywood's 7th layer Supreme Expert couldn't help but cry out in shock. Because the power of this eye technique already surpassed his Earth rank martial art, Heavenly Wind Rend. Moreover, it was not just a little bit stronger. Not only that, but what was even more shocking was that this was a long-lost eye technique. In the crowd, Lin Xian was also shocked when he saw this. This eye technique was simply too powerful. Its attack power shocked even him. One had to know that even when he used the Great Dragon Sword Soul with all his strength, it was only SOSO. Of course, this didn't mean that the Great Dragon Sword Soul was weak, but Lin Xian was only a 4th layer Supreme Expert. If Lin Xian was also a 7th layer Supreme Expert, then with the power of the Great Dragon Sword Soul, it wouldn't be a problem to split the Dragon Palace apart. Ah, you dare to destroy the Dragon Pillar? You're all going to die! Prime Minister Hai went crazy. He waved his staff and quickly mobilized the energy of the dragon pillar, trying to restore it. However, the crowd didn't give him a chance and quickly attacked. Black Tortoise General, come out! Prime Minister Hai couldn't hold on by himself, and hurriedly called for his companions. Buzz! A huge whirlpool appeared on another dragon pillar, and then a huge figure appeared. It was the Black Tortoise expert. As soon as it appeared, it emitted a monstrous demonic aura that swept out in all directions. That aura was much stronger than before. It seemed that the dragon pillar was indeed very strange. The Black Tortoise expert had only been in it for a few days, but his strength had rapidly increased. The current him was far stronger than before. Everyone, be careful. Don't fight it head on, Elder Song quickly reminded from behind. Although his disciples were geniuses, they were too young. With their current strength, it was impossible for them to fight it. They had to work together to fight it. This time, everyone split up. One team, led by Zhao Shui, fought against the Black Tortoise expert. The other team, led by Merry Forest's 7th Layer Supreme Expert, Elder Zhou, attacked the other dragon pillar. They attacked from both sides at the same time. Void Sky Eye! Zhao Shui's figure floated like a fairy and instantly appeared above the Black Tortoise expert. The huge eye shadow surged and released a dazzling attack. This was an eye technique attack that contained terrifying soul power. Boom! In an instant, this attack bombarded the Black Tortoise expert's body and immediately tore open his tough turtle shell. Although the Black Tortoise expert's strength had increased greatly, the Void Sky Eye was too terrifying and couldn't be judged by common sense. Therefore, the Black Tortoise expert was injured in one move. Roar! An earth-shattering roar resounded in all directions as the Black Tortoise expert went berserk. As a Sea Tribe expert, he was very powerful. This time, with the help of the Dragon Pillar, his strength had increased greatly. He originally thought that this time, he would be able to avenge his humiliation and kill the detestable human in front of him. However, he didn't expect that he would be injured again. How could he not go crazy? He waved his huge claws and pounced forward. Sika! The entire space collapsed and endless waves surged. The space in front of him was instantly emptied. On the other hand, Zhao Shui executed her movement technique and quickly dodged this attack. At this moment, the 7th Layer Supreme Expert in the distance also seized the opportunity to use an Earth-class technique and ruthlessly bombarded the Black Tortoise expert, sending him flying. The mountain-like body flew out from the bottom of the sea and destroyed countless buildings along the way. Kill! Elder Song led countless disciples and quickly attacked. They could only take advantage of this opportunity to attack the opponent. Rumble! In an instant, countless attacks landed and enveloped the Black Tortoise. Although the Black Tortoise's defense was strong, it couldn't withstand so many attacks and the attacks of two 7th Layer supremacies. Therefore, it didn't take long for it to become thin and heavily injured. Seeing this scene, Prime Minister Hai's face was extremely gloomy. He didn't expect that the extremely tough Black Tortoise expert couldn't stop these detestable humans. Damn it, all of you deserve to die! Prime Minister Hai looked at everyone with a terrifying light in his eyes. Chapter 1091. The situation in the Dragon Palace was extremely chaotic. The Xian Turtle Tribe powerhouses were being beaten back, and Hai Xiang was also getting weaker and weaker. In any case, the situation was very unfavorable for the sea demons. Damn it, all of you have to die! Hai Xiang looked at the people around him with a ferocious expression. Dragon King Tsunami! In the next moment, he waved the staff in his hand with all his might and communicated with the dragon ball above him. A blue light surged out and swept out in all directions. Everyone who was enveloped by the light felt their bodies tremble as the spiritual power in their bodies quickly disappeared. However, it was not the first time they had seen this move, so they all had a plan to deal with it. In an instant, they all took various measures to resist with all their might. Among them, Marywood's 7th Heaven Supremacy, Zhao Shui, Elder Song, and the other elders were able to quickly control it, while the other disciples were resisting with all their might. As for the Xian Turtle Tribe powerhouse, because he was a sea demon, he was not affected much. However, there was another person who was not affected at all, and that was Lin Xian. When the other party used the Dragon King Tsunami, he had already activated the Great Dragon Sword Soul in his body, and quickly cut off all connections around him. In other words, the other party's move did not affect him at all. However, Lin Xian looked ahead and frowned slightly. This was because he knew that the Dragon King's tsunami would not have much of an effect. At most, it would only delay the attacks of the crowd. Given the other party's experience, he should have known. However, the other party had still used all his strength to execute this move, which was indeed unbelievable. Until now, Lin Xian had been among the many disciples fighting against the Xian Turtle Tribe powerhouse. Speaking of which, he had not been in the limelight, so many people had forgotten about his existence. This was because there were too many powerhouses present. Regardless of whether it was the Seventh Heaven's Supremacy or Zhao Shui, they were extremely powerful and eye-catching. As for Lin Xian, he seemed to be just a small disciple. In such a grand scene, he could not do anything at all. Of course, this was the situation in the eyes of outsiders. In fact, Lin Xian had used the 10,000 bee sting to control a sea demon and obtain the situation of the entire dragon palace. This dragon pearl was actually a demon core left behind by a flood dragon of the same level. It could be said that it contained the essence of a king. However, the Jiao Dragon King had cultivated an evil technique when he was alive, so his demon core also contained an evil aura. Not only that, Lin Xian also knew that the Flood Dragon King had a treasure when he was alive, the Water Spirit Pearl. He had absorbed quite a bit of the Water Spirit Pearl, and the rest was sealed in a palace with a powerful seal. He had learned all of this from a sea demon. Lin Xian was still digesting the information when a commotion broke out in front of him. That was because after Prime Minister Hai used the Dragon King Tsunami, he did not attack again. Instead, he turned into a ray of light and fled. This was because he could see that with his strength and cultivation, even if he had the Dragon Ball, he could only fight to a draw with everyone for the time being. It was simply impossible for them to win. Moreover, he was afraid that he would be in danger if he dragged this out any longer, so he fled. Because in his opinion, even if he left, Lin Xian and the others would not be able to fight against the Dragon Balls. "You want to leave? It's not that easy!" Merry Forest's Seventh Heaven's Supremacy roared and unleashed a tornado. Zhao Shui also controlled the Void Eye to lock onto Prime Minister Hai. Bam! Their attacks landed on Prime Minister Hai's body and sent him flying. Fresh blood flowed, and the staff in his hand fell out of his hand. Seeing the staff, Zhao Shui and the Seventh Heaven's Supremacy were stunned for a moment, and did not pay much attention to it. At that moment, Lin Xian moved. He waved his sleeve and released the little white monkey. From the information he had obtained, he knew that the staff was very important because it was a treasure that could communicate with the Dragon Ball. Whoosh! A white light flashed, and the little white monkey appeared. It stretched out its furry paws and grabbed the staff, hugging it in its arms. Seeing this scene, Zhao Shui and the Seventh Heaven's Supremacy were stunned again because they did not notice when the little monkey had arrived. However, Prime Minister Hai's expression changed drastically. Because this magic staff was his lifeblood. "Bastard, you're courting death!" He roared angrily and reached out to grab the little white monkey. The little white monkey's eyes were filled with disdain. Then, it made a face and disappeared into the air. The snow-white monkey arrived in front of Prime Minister Hai. Its furry little paw slapped the other party's face, knocking him unconscious. Bam! Prime Minister Hai saw stars and felt dizzy. The seventh-level Heavenly Venerate snorted coldly, raised his hand, and sent out a half-moon wind blade that split Prime Minister Hai apart. Zhao Shui frowned slightly. She did not know why, but when she saw the little white monkey, she felt a sense of familiarity. On the other hand, the little white monkey did not return to Lin Xian's side after snatching the staff. Instead, it went to the Dragon Ball. It waved the staff in its hand excitedly. Suddenly, the surrounding blue light disappeared and the energy of the Dragon King's tsunami stopped. Everyone felt the spiritual power in their body recover, and heaved a sigh of relief. Then, they all looked ahead in shock. It stopped? It actually stopped. That monkey looks familiar? Nonsense, that's Lin Xian's monkey, someone said. What, Lin Xian? Everyone started discussing. At this moment, the Xian turtle tribe elite could not hold on anymore. Without Prime Minister Hai, he did not want to fight anymore. So, his figure flashed, and he escaped. Everyone did not chase after him. Instead, they stared at the dragon ball in front of them. Of course, most of them stared at the little white monkey. Because it was too strange. It could actually stop the Dragon King tsunami. This was too shocking. Not only that, but even more people turned to look at Lin Xian. Even Elder Song and the rest looked at Lin Xian strangely. Because this scene was not something they had expected. Woogie woogie! The little white monkey hugged the staff and jumped around happily. Its big eyes narrowed into crescents. Damn, the little guy actually snatched the staff. The Crimson Dragon was overjoyed. That's awesome. He did not want the Dragon Ball, but he had been eyeing the 2 dragon pillars for a long time. Those were good things. At this moment, the people of the Divine Bird Palace shouted coldly. Lin Xian, hurry up and tell your monkey to put down the staff. Yes, hand over the staff. This thing doesn't belong to you. Humph, in this old man's opinion, you don't deserve to have it. You, a little warrior, dare to occupy such a treasure? You're courting death. Young man, there are some things you can't take. The group of people from the Divine Bird Palace roared. Humph. In the face of so many cold shouts, Lin Xian snorted coldly. Suddenly, the little white monkey waved its staff and communicated with the Dragon Ball. It formed a blue light that enveloped the people of the Divine Bird Palace. Chapter 1092. Kid, hand over the staff if you know what's good for you. Yes, this is not something you can have. The people of Divine Bird Palace stared at Lin Xian with unfriendly expressions. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Suddenly, the snow-white monkey in front of him waved the staff and communicated with the Dragon Ball above, forming a blue light that enveloped the people of Divine Bird Palace. In an instant, the disciples of Divine Bird Palace were all enveloped by the light. The next moment, the spiritual energy in their bodies was drained again. Seeing this scene, the people of Divine Bird Palace trembled and quickly shut up, not daring to speak again. Because they did not expect that the snow-white monkey not only got the staff, but also could control the Dragon Ball. This was too strange. The others were also shocked. This scene was completely beyond their imagination. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled into a smile as he strode forward. The Crimson Dragon also howled excitedly and followed beside him. He quickly came to the snow-white monkey's side and said excitedly, Little guy, quickly cast a spell on these 2 dragon pillars and turn them into a spiritual spring. The Crimson Dragon was a wily old fox, so he saw the key to the problem at a glance. To be able to receive the Dragon Ball, these 2 dragon pillars were definitely not simple. Moreover, the powerhouse of the Xian Turtle clan was inside these dragon pillars. In the end, not only was his injury healed, but his strength also increased greatly. Therefore, this showed that these 2 dragon pillars were definitely not simple. The snow-white monkey nodded happily, then waved the staff in his hand and cast a spell on the 2 dragon pillars. Soon, the 2 dragon pillars melted and turned into a spiritual spring. A very rich spiritual energy condensed and emitted from the bottom of the sea. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes, then took a step forward and entered the spiritual spring. As soon as he entered, he could not help but snort softly. All the pores on his body opened, greedily absorbing the spiritual energy inside. The Crimson Dragon guessed correctly. The spiritual spring formed by these 2 dragon pillars contained pure energy. At this moment, Lin Xian chose to absorb it into his body, forming a warm current that washed over his body. The Crimson Dragon also howled and swam around in the spiritual spring. Such rich spiritual energy! Seeing this scene, the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace finally couldn't bear it anymore. They rushed forward and dived into the spirit spring. However, what followed was a series of screams. The disciples who jumped into the spirit spring were enveloped by an evil force. They were instantly turned into blood water and evaporated. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, and their expressions became very frightened. They had never expected such an outcome. Evil Chi, it's the evil Chi inside the Dragon Balls. An elder from Marywood shook his head. Although the spirit spring is good, it contains a large amount of evil Chi. If one's cultivation is not enough and forcefully absorbs it, I'm afraid one will instantly turn into a pool of blood. Hearing this explanation, everyone's face changed. Looking at the spirit spring in front of them, their eyes were filled with endless envy and disappointment. Although the spirit spring was good, it seemed that they couldn't enjoy it at all. But the people of the Divine Bird Palace didn't believe it. They all shouted, "Impossible. That's right. If there was evil Chi, how could that kid be fine? Conspiracy, this must be his conspiracy. Yes, let's drag that brat out and avenge our disciple." An elder of the Divine Bird Palace also roared angrily. However, the elder of Marywood shook his head. This is not a conspiracy. Warriors below the seventh sky of the Venerable Realm can't enter at all. But that young man can enter because of that staff. What? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. They all stared at the snow-white monkey, or to be exact, the staff in his hand. Especially the people of the Divine Bird Palace. They all stared ahead with greedy eyes. Because the staff was too important. Just getting the staff was equivalent to getting the spirit spring. With the spirit spring, their cultivation would be able to increase. Kid, hurry up and hand over the staff. The elder of the Divine Bird Palace sneered and stretched out a palm of light to grab the snow-white monkey. He was very arrogant. This palm completely covered the entire spirit spring, including Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian didn't move. It was as if he didn't see it. The snow-white monkey waved the staff in his hand angrily. Suddenly, the dragon ball above shot out a blue light. Like lightning, it instantly tore the palm of light apart and penetrated the elder of the Divine Bird Palace. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Because the power of the dragon ball was too strong. The elder of the Divine Bird Palace was a sixth sky of the Venerable Realm. It was terrifying that he was penetrated in an instant. The people of the Divine Bird Palace were so scared that their faces turned green. They quickly retreated and didn't dare to go forward. Although they were very envious and greedy, no one dared to risk their lives at this moment. The others were also shocked. Everyone looked at the snow-white monkey with a look of fear. And Zhao Shui was expressionless. She quickly walked up. The seventh sky of the Marywoods pondered for a moment, then also walked up. To be honest, Lin Xian's appearance surprised him. He only thought of Zhao Shui as a strong opponent and didn't care about anyone else. But now, he didn't expect that a young man with a fourth sky of the Venerable Realm cultivation could shock everyone. Lin Gongzi, what do you plan to do with the Dragon Ball? Zhao Shui asked. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect the powerful Zhao Shui to ask Lin Xian. The seventh sky of the Venerable Realm didn't say anything. He glanced at Zhao Shui, then looked at Lin Xian again. It could be said that the two people in front of him were the ones he was most afraid of. Zhao Shui was powerful and had the virtual sky eye. Even he didn't dare to be careless. As for the young man in the spirit spring, although he didn't care about his own strength, he had the staff now. It could be said that he could indirectly control the Dragon Ball. Unless it was a last resort, he didn't want to be enemies with him. Because he had seen the power of the Dragon Ball. It was an existence that gave people a headache. The surrounding people were even more shocked because Zhao Shui was a seventh sky of the Venerable Realm. She also had the ancient eye technique that was lost. It could be said that she was very powerful. Even the seventh sky of the Marywoods wouldn't dare to say that he would win. It could be said that no one present could truly defeat Zhao Shui. However, such a powerful person was now asking Lin Xian. This was simply too shocking and unexpected. At this time, Lin Xian opened his eyes in the spirit spring. He glanced around and then said in a deep voice, This spirit spring belongs to me. This spirit spring is mine. It will be of great use to my cultivation. Hearing this, everyone was shocked, especially those from the Divine Bird Palace. Their faces were full of surprise. They didn't expect Lin Xian to be so greedy and directly swallow the entire spirit spring. However, even if they were dissatisfied, they didn't dare to say anything. Their elder was killed on the spot. That scene immediately stunned them. Therefore, they now pinned their hopes on Zhao Shui and the seventh sky of the Merry Woods. Chapter 1093. Humph, he dares to demand an exorbitant price in front of two 7th-level venerables. This guy is dead meat. That's right, he wants to take it all for himself? He doesn't even know who he is. Even if we agree, I'm afraid the two 7th-level venerables will not agree. The people from the Divine Bird Palace sneered and were ready to see Lin Xian make a fool of himself. However, in the next moment, they were stunned and their expressions turned ugly. This was because Zhao Shui nodded quickly without thinking. Okay, I won't fight with you for the spirit fountain. Seeing Zhao Shui nod, the 7th-level venerables beside her also nodded. The spirit fountain was good and useful to them. However, compared to the Dragon Ball, it was not worth mentioning. Therefore, their target was the Dragon Ball and they gave up on the spirit fountain. Seeing Zhao Shui and the 7th-level venerables give up on the spirit fountain, everyone gasped. This was because they did not expect the two 7th-level venerables to give up on the treasure in front of them so decisively. Lin Xian smiled with satisfaction and at the same time, he heaved a sigh of relief. He made the right bet. In front of the Dragon Ball, the spirit fountain was nothing. This was not to say that the spirit fountain was not good, but compared to the Dragon Ball, the spirit fountain was not as good. However, the spirit fountain was very important to Lin Xian. This was because it could greatly increase Lin Xian's cultivation strength in a short period of time. Lin Xian smiled and said, "As for the Dragon Ball above, I won't take it." Hearing Lin Xian's words, Zhao Shui and the 7th-level venerables from Merry Woods heaved a sigh of relief. The surrounding people were also stunned. They did not expect Lin Xian to give up on the Dragon Ball so decisively. In fact, Lin Xian had his own considerations. This was because the Crimson Dragon had made it clear that there was still some evil energy in the Dragon Ball. Therefore, he would not take it. This evil energy would not only affect the Crimson Dragon, but Lin Xian felt that it could also affect him. Therefore, for the future development of his martial arts, Lin Xian decided to give it up. Moreover, the Dragon Clan was too demonic and eye-catching. It was not something the spirit fountain under his feet could compare to. This was a true king artifact, something left behind by a king artifact. There was not a single person present who did not want to obtain it. Even a 7th-level sovereign would go crazy after seeing this item. With his current strength, he was only a 4th-layer heavenly venerate. Compared to a 7th-layer heavenly venerate, he was indeed much weaker. Even if he could use the staff to snatch the dragon orb, it was still extremely dangerous for him because once he left the Dragon Palace, he would be hunted down by countless venerables. He did not want to put himself in such a dangerous situation. Therefore, he would not take the Dragon Ball. Another point was that Lin Xian found that the energy in it was too high level. With his current cultivation, he could not absorb it at all. Even if he got it, it would be useless to him. It was not as practical as the spirit fountain. Based on the above 3 points, Lin Xian decisively gave up on the Dragon Ball and chose the spirit fountain. Moreover, Lin Xian also understood that the Dragon Ball was very difficult to obtain. Even if he had the magic staff, it would not be easy to obtain the Dragon Ball. Therefore, he threw this hot potato out. However, he would not give it away for nothing. Hearing Lin Xian's decision, the young disciples were in an uproar. They did not expect Lin Xian to give up such a good opportunity. However, the older generation was silent, especially Elder Song and the others. They looked at Lin Xian and kept nodding. Because if they were to choose, they would also give up the Dragon Ball. At such a young age, he knows how to prioritize and how to give up. This young man is amazing. Yes, with his aptitude, if he grows up, his future will be limitless. The few elders of the immortal martial academy nodded their heads unceasingly. At this time, Lin Xian spoke again. Of course, I don't want the Dragon Ball, but it does not mean that you can get it. With your strength, you should be able to see that the Dragon Ball was left behind by a king. It will be very difficult to completely subdue it. However, I can use the magic staff in my hand to help you. In this Dragon Palace, there is a water spirit pearl. Whoever can help me find it and give it to me, I will use the magic staff to help you obtain the Dragon Ball. Lin Xian gave his final condition. What? When these words came out, everyone was shocked. They did not expect Lin Xian to dare to talk about conditions. Water spirit pearl? What is that? Are there other treasures in the Dragon Palace? It should be. It seems that it is not worse than the spirit fountain. Damn it, how does he know about the water spirit pearl? This kid is too greedy. Not only did he get the spirit fountain, he also wants other treasures. Damn it! This is the dissatisfaction of the people of the Divine Bird Palace. Another elder of the Divine Bird Palace also sneered. Just wait and see, he is dead! He dares to talk about conditions with a 7th level venerable. He really doesn't know how to write the word death. The crowd discussed animatedly. They all felt that Lin Xian was too audacious and greedy. At the same time, they were very curious about the water spirit pearl that Lin Xian mentioned. Especially the people of the Divine Bird Palace, their eyes were once again burning with greed. Damn it, we must find out the whereabouts of the water spirit pearl. Don't worry, wait for an opportunity. I don't believe that this kid won't tell us. A group of people whispered, and all of them had their eyes on the water spirit pearl. In fact, this was normal. The most precious treasure in this place was the Dragon Ball. However, with Zhao Shui and the 7th level venerable in Merry Woods, they had no chance at all. Next was Lin Xian's spirit fountain. However, they did not dare to take it because the little white monkey controlled the magic staff. Therefore, this mysterious water spirit pearl became everyone's target. Zhao Shui pondered for a moment, and then nodded. Okay, it's settled. She seemed determined to get the Dragon Ball. The 7th level venerable from Merry Woods looked gloomy and was dissatisfied. Lin Xian's monopolization of the spirit fountain had already made him unhappy. He did not expect that Lin Xian would dare to talk about conditions with him. How bold! Because the effect of the spirit fountain was very rich, even he was a little tempted. Now, it was completely monopolized by Lin Xian. This was not enough. Lin Xian even wanted to use the water spirit pearl to exchange for the Dragon Ball. This was too much. The disciples of Merry Woods also looked gloomy. They stared at Lin Xian with unfriendly expressions. At this time, the people of the Divine Bird Palace could not bear it anymore. A few of the older generation jumped out and said coldly, Kid, how dare you talk about conditions with us? I think you're tired of living. That's right, you want other treasures? Do you really think that no one can stop you? Who do you think you are? You want to help us get the Spirit Pearl. We want to get the Spirit Pearl and we don't need your help. A group of elders of the Divine Bird Palace looked angry and disdainful. Oh, you don't need my help? That's good. The Dragon Ball is there. If you want to go, go. I won't stop you. Lin Xian shrugged and said coldly. Chapter 1094. You won't intercept it? Are you telling the truth? Hearing this, the elders of the Divine Bird Palace looked excited. Of course, this Dragon Ball is an ownerless object. Whoever wants to take it can do it. I won't interfere. Humph, at least you know what's good for you. The elders of the Divine Bird Palace snorted, then quickly stepped forward, rubbing their fists and preparing to take the Dragon Ball. They couldn't wait any longer. Originally, they were a little afraid of the snow-white monkey and the staff in its hand because it could control the Dragon Ball. But now, it said that it wouldn't interfere with them, which made them very happy. I'll do it! An elder of the Divine Bird Palace stepped forward. This elder's hair was gray, and his cultivation had reached the 6th heaven of the Venerable Realm. He looked at the Dragon Ball in front of him, his heart throbbing. Finally, he made a move. The surrounding disciples of the Divine Bird Palace also cheered. It's great that the seventh elder is here. Yes, the seventh elder is a powerhouse of the Venerable Realm. He can definitely take the Dragon Ball. When the seventh elder gets the Dragon Ball, I want to see that kid's expression. I'm afraid he'll cry his eyes out. Such a good treasure disappearing in front of his eyes. Anyone would feel bad. He deserves it. I can't wait to see his expression. A group of disciples of the Divine Bird Palace sneered. The people of Senmu College and Mary Forest were also whispering. Isn't Lin Xian a little too arrogant? The Dragon Ball is an ownerless object. Without control, no matter how strong it is, it won't be able to exert much power. Not necessarily. After all, it's something left by a king. Who knows what the consequences will be? Yes, let's wait and see. Lin Xian's lips curled into a cold smile when he heard the crowd's discussion. He wanted to see who would be crying later. The seventh elder of the Divine Bird Palace stepped forward, and a powerful spiritual power burst out from his body. Behind him, the shadow of a three-headed bird appeared. Then, the shadow cried out, and its voice resounded through the sky. Moreover, the seventh elder stretched out his palm, forming a giant purple claw in the air, and grabbed at the Dragon Ball. The giant purple claw was completely formed by lightning. It was extremely terrifying, and cracks even appeared on the empty palace. Soon, the giant claw enveloped the Dragon Ball. Seeing this scene, everyone's hearts were in their throats. Most of the people from Divine Bird Palace stared at the little white monkey to prevent it from making a move. The snow-white little monkey mumbled a few times and cast a disdainful look at him. It hugged the magic staff to its chest and remained motionless. Seeing that the little white monkey didn't attack, the people of Divine Bird Palace were obviously relieved. The seventh elder secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he released another surge of energy, causing the giant purple claw above to shine even brighter. The next moment, he grabbed the Dragon Ball. What? Got him! This scene stunned the surrounding people. They didn't expect the Dragon Balls to be caught so easily. Even Marywood's 7th level Venerable and Zhao Shui frowned. The people of the Divine Bird Palace laughed crazily. Ha ha ha! I finally got the Dragon Balls! Great! This is something left behind by a king. It will be of great help to us. Yes, the heavens are really helping our Divine Bird technique. We will definitely carry it forward. Maybe we could even advance to the House of Kings. The people of Divine Bird Palace were full of expectations and were very arrogant. The 7th elder was also excited. He didn't expect to catch the Dragon Balls so easily. He shook his arm and wanted to take the Dragon Balls back. But the next moment, the joy on his face disappeared and was replaced by a touch of fear. No! The 7th elder let out a scream. His expression was very frightened, as if he had encountered something terrible. What happened? Hearing this scream, everyone was shocked and looked over. They saw that the giant claw formed by lightning in the sky was quickly shrinking and then disappearing. As for the 7th elder's arm, it quickly shriveled and turned into a pile of white bones. Moreover, the corrosion continued, and soon, white bones appeared on his shoulder. No! The 7th elder retreated in horror, but he still couldn't change the situation. Finally, he gritted his teeth and a touch of determination appeared in his eyes. He quickly cut off his entire arm. His body didn't continue to corrode until his arm fell to the ground. After doing all this, the 7th elder of Divine Bird Palace gasped for breath with a face full of fear. He was so close to becoming a pile of bones. Thinking of this, fear rose in his heart. At the same time, his face became ferocious. Because without his right arm, his combat power would be greatly reduced. The disciples of Divine Bird Palace were stunned and their expressions were full of panic. Impossible! This is absolutely impossible! How could the 7th elder be injured? Yes, that's a level 6 powerhouse. How could he be injured? No, I don't believe it. This must be a dream. The disciples of Divine Bird Palace went crazy and couldn't believe it. Meanwhile, the surrounding people started to discuss among themselves. It seems that the Dragon Balls are not so easy to get. Even a level 6 Venerable couldn't get it, and was almost killed. This Dragon Balls is really terrifying. It's indeed something left by a king. It's really extraordinary. Although no one is controlling it, its instinctive counterattack is not something a level 6 Venerable can resist. Yes, I guess only a level 7 Venerable might have a chance. The disciples of Mary Woods whispered. The disciples of Senma College sneered. They didn't have a good impression of Divine Bird Palace Geo. Before, the two sides almost had a conflict, so they were naturally happy to see this scene. Humph, don't talk big if you don't have the strength. You said that it would be easy to get the Dragon Balls, but in the end, you were slapped in the face. Not only did you not get slapped in the face, but you also lost an arm and almost lost your life. This is a big loss of face. They all deserved it. Junior Brother Lin had warned them before, but they didn't listen and thought that Junior Brother Lin was harboring evil intentions. Now they know, it's too late. Yes, Junior Brother Lin was obviously kind and wanted to help them get the Dragon Balls, but they didn't believe him. If you have the ability, don't let Junior Brother Lin help you for the rest of your life. The disciples of Senma College mocked and ridiculed. Elder Song and the others were silent. After all, Lin Xian was a genius disciple of their college, so in their hearts, they were still biased towards Lin Xian. Hearing these discussions, the other warriors fell silent and looked at Lin Xian with uncertain expressions. Previously, they thought that Lin Xian was too greedy and wanted to take all the treasures. It was too abominable. But now, it seemed that he really had the qualifications because the Dragon Balls were too terrifying. It wasn't something that an ordinary person could get. Perhaps even a level 7 Venerable wouldn't have full confidence. Lin Xian was different. He had a staff in his hand and could communicate with the Dragon Balls. It might not play a key role. Chapter 1095. Now, the way everyone looked at Lin Xian had changed. No one thought that he was asking for too much, because he was indeed the key to obtaining the Dragon Ball. Zhao Shui was expressionless, because she had already agreed to Lin Xian's conditions. The 7th level Venerable from Mary Woods gasped. Previously, he was dissatisfied and thought that Lin Xian had gone too far, completely disregarding him. Unfortunately, his view had changed. Lin Xian was too important. Without Lin Xian, there was no way he could obtain the Dragon Ball. Fortunately, although he was dissatisfied before, he did not directly express it to Lin Xian. Otherwise, it would be difficult now. Without any hesitation, the 7th level Venerable quickly nodded. Okay, I agree to your conditions. Hearing this, Lin Xian smiled with satisfaction, because he had already guessed this result. The Dragon Ball's terror was beyond everyone's imagination. It was laughable that those people from Divine Bird Palace had overestimated themselves and wanted to obtain it alone. As a result, they almost lost another elder. All of this was within his expectations. The two 7th level Venerables agreed to Lin Xian's conditions and began to lead people to search for the legendary Water Spirit Pearl. Lin Xian sat cross-legged in the Spirit Spring, quickly absorbing the energy inside, cleansing and improving his body, and increasing his spiritual power. Not only that, he also took out the elixirs that he had refined before and began to swallow them. Now, he could see that this remote heaven secret realm was definitely a treasure trove. There were treasures everywhere, but they could only be obtained with great strength. Therefore, as long as there was a chance, Lin Xian would not hesitate to increase his strength. More and more people began to search around. In the end, even the people from Senma College left. This was because the Dragon Ball was not the only treasure in the Dragon Palace. There were many other treasures in the other palaces, and these treasures were very tempting. Seeing that the people from Senma College and Mary Woods had left, the people from Divine Bird Palace hid in the dark and quickly discussed. Elder, now that those people have left, should we take action and capture this kid? As long as we control this kid and make him activate the staff to help us seize the Dragon Balls, we might have a good chance. Hearing this, the elders of Divine Bird Palace pondered. Although Lin Xian could now control the dragon balls, after all, they had more people. If they went all out, they might be able to take down this kid. As for Lin Xian, who was far away in the spirit spring, he sneered. Through his powerful soul force, he already knew what these people were talking about. Indeed, I can only control a portion of the dragon orb's power. I can't unleash its full power. However, killing a few sixth heaven venerables is still a piece of cake. It sounded like he was talking to himself, but it sounded more like a warning. In the distance, the elders of the Divine Bird Palace trembled when they heard this. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were also shocked, as if they had seen a ghost. They didn't think that even though they were so far away, the other party could still hear their conversation. It was really terrifying. Forget it, this kid is too strange. Let's ignore him for now and look for other treasures. This dragon palace was left behind by a king. There are many treasures inside. We must get the other treasures. One of the elders said coldly. Then, the other elders nodded in agreement and quickly left with the people of Divine Bird Palace. Seeing that those people had left, Lin Xian snorted coldly. He raised his hand and set up a formation that covered the entire spirit spring. Then, he slowly closed his eyes and fell into cultivation. As he continued to absorb the spiritual power in the spirit spring, his cultivation increased rapidly. Half a day later, his cultivation had reached the peak of the fourth heaven venerable realm. At this moment, the spiritual power in the spirit spring was only half consumed. He still had a lot of elixirs in his hand. If he went all out, he should be able to break through to the fifth heaven venerable realm. Let's give it a try. Lin Xian made up his mind and began to break through to the fifth heaven venerable realm. Just as Lin Xian was breaking through to the next realm, the seventh heaven venerables of Merry Woods, Zhao Shui, and the others were also searching quickly. However, there were many buildings in the Dragon Palace. Although some were destroyed in the battle, there were still many buildings standing. Therefore, it was not easy to find a small water spirit pearl. Therefore, other than the seventh heaven venerables of Merry Woods and Zhao Shui who were searching for the water spirit pearl, the other warriors were frantically collecting other treasures. However, although Lin Xian was in seclusion to break through, the little white monkey was not idle. He took out the leader's small bowl again and began to collect other treasures. Because he was very secretive and there were too many buildings around, no one noticed him at all. The little white monkey did not take action. Once he took action, he took out some precious items. Just one item was comparable to 7 or 8 items in the hands of the other warriors. Therefore, Lin Xian did not lose out at all. In fact, he made a big profit. Soon a day had passed. With the spirit spring and elixirs, Lin Xian successfully broke through to the fifth heaven venerable realm. He felt the spiritual power in his body increase. Lin Xian was delighted. I finally broke through. After reaching the fifth heaven venerable realm, he could be considered a small expert. Moreover, not only did his cultivation increase, reaching the fifth heaven venerable realm also improved his great dragon sword soul. In the past, he could not fight against a sixth heaven venerable realm expert at all. However, there was no problem now. The improvement of the great dragon sword soul had increased his combat strength by several times. However, this was not the end. He planned to improve the great dragon sword soul. Because his martial soul was different from others. Others' martial souls were condensed by themselves and then slowly improved through exploration. However, Lin Xian was different. His sword soul was the strongest sword soul in the world. It had existed for a long time. However, it entered his body in the end and became his sword soul. Lin Xian did not need to improve the sword soul at all. All he needed to do was awaken the great dragon sword soul. This process was much easier than improving the martial soul. Therefore, Lin Xian planned to consume the purple spirit pill and enter an ethereal state to activate and improve the great dragon sword soul. If he could improve the great dragon sword soul to the sixth heaven venerable realm, his strength would increase greatly. At that time, it would not be impossible for him to fight against the seventh heaven venerable realm expert. Thinking of this, Lin Xian felt a burst of excitement. Therefore, the great dragon sword soul was the foundation of his combat strength. The improvement of the great dragon sword soul was very important to him. After instructing the snow-white monkey and the crimson dragon, Lin Xian took out a purple spirit pill and swallowed it. He began to improve the great dragon sword soul. In the blink of an eye, another 2 days had passed. During this period, Lin Xian swallowed a few more purple spirit pills. He poured all the energy in the spirit spring into the great dragon sword soul in an attempt to activate and improve it. With the support of all this energy, his sword soul finally recovered a little. A low dragon roar came out of Lin Xian's body. This roar was very low, but it carried a sense of pressure. Moreover, it also contained the sound of a sword. It was very strange. Chapter 1096. The warriors nearby were shocked because the sound made the blood in their bodies churn. Some of the weaker disciples even fell to the ground from the shock. What's going on? What a terrifying aura! What did that kid do? Why is he emitting such a terrifying aura? Many people looked ahead in horror. Lin Xian stood up from the spiritual spring. At this moment, his figure was tall and straight, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. He was like a peerless divine sword that was unstoppable. Around him, there were terrifying sword chi surrounding him, making him look like a celestial being. Is this the power of the great dragon sword soul? It's so terrifying! Lin Xian felt the surging aura of the great dragon sword soul in his body and felt a burst of excitement. Now, he could kill a level 4 supremacy with a casual attack. Not only that, he was now completely capable of fighting against a level 6 supremacy. If he used the great dragon sword soul and went all out, he could even fight against a level 7 supremacy. Moreover, what made him happy was that the improvement of the great dragon sword soul was not only reflected in its combat strength. His soul had also been nourished. Now, his soul had broken through the shackles of a level 6 alchemist and reached the level of a level 7 alchemist. Therefore, Lin Xian had now become a true level 7 alchemist. One had to know that he was not even 20 years old. It was unprecedented for him to become a level 7 alchemist at this age. This was because a peerless genius like Shen Tianyu also became a level 7 alchemist when he was around 30 years old. However, Lin Xian had shortened the process by a full 10 years. If this news were to spread, it would probably scare everyone to death. The power of the great dragon sword soul was beyond everyone's expectations. When the crowd faced Lin Xian, they felt as if they were facing a level 7 supremacy. This feeling was so strange that it shocked the surrounding warriors. In fact, this was very normal. The great dragon sword soul was an offensive sword soul between heaven and earth. Its power was definitely not something these people could imagine. Moreover, as Lin Xian's cultivation increased, the recovery of the great dragon sword soul also increased rapidly. Its power increased exponentially with each recovery. Therefore, the further he progressed, the stronger Lin Xian's combat strength became. Lin Xian took a deep breath and retracted all the sword qi in his body. Then, he stepped out of the spirit spring. At this moment, most of the energy in the spirit spring had been given to the great dragon sword soul, and there was only a little left. However, the crimson dragon didn't let it go and sucked it all in. After doing all this, he patted his belly in satisfaction. Lin Xian walked slowly as he scanned his surroundings. All the cultivators who were swept by this gaze lowered their heads, not daring to meet it. The little snow-white monkey jumped onto Lin Xian's shoulder and chirped happily. Seeing this, Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat, and he looked at the small bowl on its head. Then, his lips curled into a smile. The small bowl on the snow-white monkey's head was said to have a certain connection with the legendary treasure bowl. Not only could this small bowl absorb treasures, but it was also a spatial storage Dharma treasure. All the treasures that the little snow-white monkey had obtained were now in it. The little snow-white monkey took the small bowl and held it in its arms. Then, it reached its furry paws into it and groped around, Under Lin Xian's surprised gaze, the little snow-white monkey took out a tattered talisman paper. This talisman paper was only the size of a palm and was dark green all over. At first glance, it looked shabby, but upon closer inspection, one would find that there were strange patterns engraved on it. They looked like Tao patterns and were extremely mysterious. It was a mess. The little snow-white monkey took the tattered dark green talisman paper and handed it to Lin Xian. When the surrounding people saw this, the corners of their mouths twitched slightly. Even a First Heaven supremacy wouldn't want such a broken thing. This little snow-white monkey is really stingy. Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat because he knew that the little snow-white fox wouldn't give him something for no reason. Moreover, something that could be snatched by the little bull was definitely not an ordinary item. Therefore, he quickly took the green talisman paper and looked at it carefully. In the next moment, his body trembled and he was ecstatic. Soul-nurturing talisman! He didn't expect that this tattered and ugly thing to be the famous soul-nurturing talisman from ancient times. This soul-nurturing talisman was very special. It was said that when a martial artist wore it, it could increase his soul power. It could be said that it had endless uses. This thing was perfect for Lin Xian. This was because the increase in soul power was not only beneficial for alchemy, but also for the Great Dragon Sword Soul. One had to know that the increase in Great Dragon Sword Soul could increase Lin Xian's soul power, and the increase in soul power could also increase the recovery of the Great Dragon Sword Soul. It could be said that the two complemented each other. After carefully wearing the soul-nurturing talisman on his body, Lin Xian rubbed the little snow-white monkey's head. Well done. Next time, I'll give you more than half of the spirit fruits I get. It was a mess. The little snow-white monkey nodded in satisfaction. Its black gem-like eyes narrowed into crescents. Moreover, the crimson dragon walked over and whispered, Boy, I have to say that you're really lucky. This soul-nurturing talisman was an extremely precious item even in ancient times. The crimson dragon was right about this. Lin Xian found that the further a martial artist went, the more they cultivated. The original body changed to the soul. It could be said that the further a martial artist went on, the more important soul power was. In the end, no matter what the physical body was like, as long as the soul was not destroyed, they could be reborn. They could even be immortal. From this, it could be seen how important a martial artist's soul was. However, there was no particularly good way to cultivate soul power. Apart from a few geniuses who were born with strong soul power, it was very difficult for others to obtain a cultivation method to cultivate soul power. They could only slowly increase their soul power as their cultivation increased. Even in ancient times, cultivation methods for soul power were extremely rare. They were only in the hands of a few sections. For example, the ancient Soul sect had a cultivation method for soul power. The tattered talisman in Lin Xian's hand was probably made by the ancient Soul sect. Lin Xian's soul power was originally strong. Now that he had the soul-nurturing talisman, his soul power would definitely grow rapidly. Damn, you're not giving him anything. What about me? The Crimson Dragon God also played with the little snow-white monkey's things. It was a mess. The little snow-white monkey rolled its eyes at him, and then placed the little bowl on top of its head. Damn, little guy, don't be so stingy, okay? You have to be generous. The Crimson Dragon smiled mischievously and wrapped itself around it. At this moment, there was a sudden sound of something breaking through the air from afar. Following that, a ray of light like white lightning appeared in front of Lin Xian from afar. Her clothes were whiter than snow, and she was a peerless beauty. This person was Zhao Shui. Looking at the woman in front of him, Lin Xian's expression was strange and unnatural. Chapter 1097. In Lin Xian's memory, Zhao Shui always gave off a charming vibe. She was not as cold as she was now. Lin Xian sighed in his heart. He could not solve this problem now. He could only wait until he had the ability to defeat her before he could unravel her secret. For now, it was better for him to keep this matter in his heart. At this moment, Zhao Shui did not know what Lin Xian was thinking. She stopped and hurriedly said to Lin Xian, Lin Gongzi, I have found the water pearl that you wanted. Found it! Hearing this, Lin Xian raised his eyebrows and a look of joy appeared on his face. According to the information he received, this water pearl was not inferior to the Lin Quan. Therefore, it was also a rare treasure for him. Zhao Shui nodded slightly and flipped her palm. A blue pearl about the size of a fist appeared in her hand. Lin Xian took a deep breath and took the blue pearl. He then examined it carefully. Yes, it is indeed the water pearl. He felt a surge of energy in it. This energy was very pure, unlike the energy in the Dragon Ball, which had a trace of evil energy. The water pearl lay in Lin Xian's hand and emitted a gentle light. Every time it flashed, a terrifying energy wave would spread out in all directions. When the surrounding martial artists felt the energy ripples, they were all shocked as they looked ahead with fiery gazes. However, they could only look on enviously. No one dared to make a move. Not to mention Zhao Shui, who was a level 7 honorable, just the aura that Lin Xian exuded was not something that they could resist. Therefore, they could only watch helplessly as their hearts went crazy. On the other hand, Lin Xian was overjoyed. He did not expect the water pearl to be found by Zhao Shui so quickly. However, thinking about it, it made sense. Zhao Shui was like him. She was a warrior with extremely strong soul power. Furthermore, she had the eyes of the void, a long-lost pupil technique. She must have a special method to find the water pearl quickly. What made Lin Xian even happier was that the water spirit pearl contained pure water element. Although he didn't have the water attribute, he had the ice attribute. The ice attribute was also a mutation of the water attribute. It could be said that the two were of the same origin. Therefore, not only could the water spirit pearl increase his cultivation, it could even increase the power of the ice lotus martial soul. After keeping the water spirit pearl, Lin Xian looked at Zhao Shui and said in a deep voice, Since you have found the water spirit pearl, according to our agreement, I will do my best to help you obtain the Dragon Ball above. Upon hearing Lin Xian's words, a smile finally appeared on Zhao Shui's expressionless face. Seeing this smile, Lin Xian had a very familiar feeling. However, this smile was very brief and disappeared in an instant. The two of them turned around and walked forward. At this moment, the two dragon pillars had already disappeared, but the dragon balls were still floating in the air. The dragon balls were slightly bigger than the water spirit pearl in Lin Xian's hands, and the energy contained within them was even more terrifying. The energy waves that were emitted turned into dragons that swam around the surface of the dragon balls, adding a mysterious aura to it. Lin Xian was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he said in a deep voice, There are a few things that I want to clarify before I make a move. Hearing this, Zhao Shui nodded slightly. Go ahead. First of all, although Little White can control the magic staff, it doesn't mean that he can control the Dragon Balls 100%. I hope you understand this. Don't worry, I know, Zhao Shui said. She understood very well that the Dragon Balls were left behind by the king. It was impossible to completely subdue them with just a magic staff. Very good. The second point is that although the Dragon Balls have powerful energy, they also contain some evil energy. This energy can even affect a person's mind. I hope you can consider this point carefully, Lin Xian said in a deep voice. This was also the reason why he and the Crimson Dragon had given up on the Dragon Balls. At this moment, Lin Xian told Zhao Shui the truth. Regardless of whether Zhao Shui lost her memory or not, she was still his friend. Therefore, Lin Xian could not hide anything from her. Hearing this, the surrounding people were shocked. They knew that there was a strange energy in the Dragon Balls, but they did not expect it to be the terrifying evil energy. This energy was extremely terrifying. Ordinary honorables would not dare to touch it. Even a level 7 honorable would have to be careful. Just as everyone was still in shock, another figure arrived in the vicinity like a bolt of lightning. This figure looked at the scene in front of him with a gloomy face. Damn it! I didn't expect her to get the water spirit pearl first. This figure was the level 7 honorable from Merry Woods. He looked around but did not find the water spirit pearl. Only now did he know that the water spirit pearl had already been obtained by Zhao Shui. He had also heard Lin Xian's advice very clearly. However, he did not take it to heart. As long as he could obtain the dragon balls, he was confident that he could neutralize the evil energy in them. Therefore, the most important thing was to obtain the dragon balls. The dragon balls were left behind by the king. Furthermore, there is evil energy in them. They must be extremely terrifying. When I obtain the treasure later, it will definitely not be peaceful. I only need to hide in the dark and observe. At the crucial moment, I may still have a chance. The level 7 honorable had already made up his mind. Even if he had to offend both Zhao Shui and Lin Xian, he had to obtain the dragon balls. Hearing Lin Xian's words, Zhao Shui pondered for a moment. However, she quickly raised her head. Her beautiful face was filled with determination. I understand what you said. However, no matter what, I must obtain the dragon balls. All right, since you insist, I will do my best to help you. Then, Lin Xian rubbed the little white monkey's head and said, Little White, let's begin. The little white monkey nodded. Then, it jumped off Lin Xian's shoulder and began waving the magic staff in its hand. Suddenly, the dragon balls above trembled slightly. Then, they emitted an even brighter light. It felt as if a blue sun was shining in all directions. At the same time, the crimson dragon moved. It raised its dragon claws and quickly carved a formation in the air. It enveloped the dragon balls and Lin Xian and the rest. Of course, this was to isolate the dragon balls from the outside world. Otherwise, if the dragon balls went crazy and attracted powerful sea demons, they would be in trouble. After doing all this, Lin Xian said solemnly, It's time for you to act. Zhao Shui nodded. Then, the spiritual energy in her body surged and quickly formed a virtual eye above her. It was like the eyes of a god looking down on the common people. The surrounding warriors who were exploring all returned and looked at the scene in front of them solemnly. This was because they knew that the most crucial moment had come. The process of obtaining the treasure was extremely dangerous. No one knew what would happen. Therefore, everyone was waiting. They were waiting for an opportunity to obtain the dragon balls. Chapter 1098. Elder Song and the others also had heavy hearts because they didn't expect Lin Xian to participate in such an important matter. After the dragon ball was isolated, the rest was dangerous because what they had to do was to collect the dragon ball. During this process, they would definitely use external forces. However, if there was any external interference, the dragon ball would automatically defend against it. Although it wasn't a king, the power was not something that an ordinary honorable could resist. Therefore, they had to be careful. This required the little white monkey because he could communicate with the dragon ball through his staff and deceive it. Of course, he could only deceive a part of it, and couldn't completely cover it. At this moment, Zhao Shui took a deep breath and controlled the void eye to attack the dragon ball. Suddenly, the void eye started to rotate and a whirlpool appeared in the huge eye. It quickly expanded and enveloped the dragon ball. The whirlpool rotated like a black hole with an extremely strong suction force as if it wanted to devour the dragon ball. Feeling the pull of this force, the dragon ball trembled rapidly, and then exploded with a powerful light. An extremely terrifying force surged out of the dragon ball and quickly rushed upwards. This energy overflowed and the entire dragon palace shook as if it would collapse at any moment. At this moment, the little white monkey quickly waved the staff in his hand and communicated with the dragon ball above to deceive it. However, the effect was minimal and could only weaken the dragon ball's energy by a little. Dragon Sword Spirit! At this critical moment, a sharp sword energy suddenly burst out of Lin Xian's body. This sword energy quickly rushed upwards to resist the dragon ball. Everyone's hearts shook when they sensed the sword chi. Even the 7th level venerated realm expert from Merry Woods frowned. He didn't expect the young man in front of him to have such a powerful sword aura. The surrounding martial artists were even more shocked because this sword energy made them feel incomparable fear. With Lin Xian's help, the battle situation above changed once again. An extremely sharp sword aura quickly enveloped the entire Dragon Ball. It was as if it wanted to cut it apart. If it was just an ordinary sword chi, it would be impossible for it to get close to the Dragon Pearl, or it would shatter the moment it got close. However, Lin Xian's sword chi was different. It was not an ordinary sword chi, but a sword chi produced by a saint art like the great dragon sword soul. Its attack power could be said to be incomparably powerful. Even if the Dragon Ball was something left behind by a king, it was impossible for it to instantly shatter this sword energy. However, Lin Xian's actions also angered the Dragon Pearl. The blue Dragon Pearl above bloomed with light, and a majestic power surged out again, rushing towards Lin Xian as if it wanted to tear him apart. Humph! Lin Xian snorted coldly. A layer of red lotus armor quickly covered his body to protect him. The red lotus armor was an extremely powerful defensive technique. Lin Xian had high confidence in it. Pun! A low voice sounded, and then 2 figures flew out. After all, the Dragon Pearl was a treasure left behind by a king. Its power was extremely terrifying, far beyond everyone's imagination. Therefore, after one attack, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui were both sent flying. However, the 2 of them were only sent flying and did not suffer any injuries. However, this scene made the surrounding people widen their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. They could understand why Zhao Shui was not injured. After all, she was a 7-day venerable expert. It should not be a problem for her to resist the power of the Dragon Pearl. However, Lin Xian was different. Although he had just broken through to the 5th heaven of the Venerable Realm, it was impossible for him to resist the power of the Dragon Pearl. However, the result was that he successfully resisted it, and did not suffer any injuries. Damn it, how is this possible? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? This kid is actually unharmed. Humph, dog Shasterisk T, luck, he must be dog Shasterisk T lucky. That's why this kid escaped by a fluke. Just watch, next time he will definitely be blasted into pieces by this energy. The disciples of Shenanggong snorted and went crazy because Lin Xian's strength was beyond their imagination. First, he released an extremely terrifying sword aura, and now he had such a strong defense. Both of them were extremely shocking. On the other hand, the people of Senmu College heaved a sigh of relief. Everyone was excited. Great, as expected of junior brother Lin. He is indeed incomparably powerful. He can even resist the terrifying energy of the Dragon Pearl. Yes, junior brother Lin seems to be able to create miracles every time. As these people had the most contact with Lin Xian, they had heard too many legends about Lin Xian during this period of time. Therefore, they did not doubt that Lin Xian was not injured at all. In fact, they were very excited. Elder Song and the others also heaved a sigh of relief. They were originally a little worried, but now it seemed that their worries were unnecessary. The 7th Heaven Venerable from Merry Woods looked forward with a solemn expression. He could also resist the attack just now, but he was a 7th Heaven Venerable, and the opponent was only a 5th Heaven Venerable. There was a difference of 2 realms between them. The difference was like heaven and earth. This kid is very strange. Regardless of whether it is his attack or defense, he far surpasses his peers. It seems that we have underestimated him. Just as everyone was discussing, Lin Xian also heaved a sigh of relief. The energy was weaker than he expected. It seemed that the staff in the snow-white monkey's hand played a role to a certain extent. Moreover, although they were forced back, it was not without effect. At least a small area above the Dragon Pearl was covered by the sword aura. Sure enough, the awakened dragon sword soul had become extremely powerful. Even the Dragon Pearl left behind by a king could not be completely destroyed in an instant. This was definitely a great opportunity. Seeing this scene, Zhao Shui's face lit up. In the next moment, he quickly formed a seal with his palms and controlled the virtual sky eye to attack the area of the Dragon Pearl that was covered by the sword aura. A golden light appeared in Zhao Shui's beautiful eyes, bringing with it a terrifying aura. Not only that, but as her eyes changed, the virtual sky eye also changed. In the huge pupil, golden lines quickly appeared, condensing into a mysterious pattern that covered the eyeball. This change made the virtual sky eye even more powerful. The originally grayish-black vortex had now turned pale gold, and an even more powerful devouring power was forming within it. Lin Xian also activated the dragon sword soul again, sending out sharp sword aura that slashed forward. The snow-white monkey also quickly waved the staff in its hand, and in the end, it simply threw the entire staff into the golden vortex. Because the main force of this battle was Zhao Shui, as long as she devoured the dragon pearl, everything would be done. Lin Xian and the snow-white monkey only assisted from the side. This dragon pearl was an ownerless object, and could only rely on its instincts to defend. Previously, Zhao Shui posed the greatest threat to it, so its resistance was also the greatest. However, it seemed to be different now. Chapter 1099. Because the snow-white monkey threw the staff into the golden vortex. The staff had a certain connection with the Dragon Ball and could weaken the Dragon Ball's resistance. Now that it was thrown into the golden vortex, the Dragon Ball's resistance to the golden vortex was weakened. This was definitely the most important step. Zhao Shui seemed to feel the change and was overjoyed. The next moment, she shouted and the light in her eyes shone brighter. The golden vortex above her quickly turned from pale gold to pure gold. Finally, it was like a giant beast that swallowed the Dragon Ball. Seeing this, the surrounding people were in an uproar. They did not expect Zhao Shui to succeed. The Dragon Ball was like a blue sun that bloomed with incomparable light. In an instant, it collided with the golden vortex. Although the blue Dragon Ball entered the golden vortex, the power it carried was too terrifying. When the two collided, a powerful energy wave burst out and quickly swept in all directions. This energy was extremely terrifying. In an instant, it tore apart the array set up by the Crimson Dragon and quickly rushed in all directions. The surrounding people's faces changed drastically and they quickly retreated. Some warriors who retreated slowly were even sent flying. Zhao Shui was also affected by this energy wave and immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. However, she did not care. Her eyes were full of surprise. Success! She finally succeeded in subduing the Dragon Ball. Although it was affected, the Dragon Ball gradually sank into the golden vortex. At this moment, an extremely anxious voice came from afar. Stop immediately! You can't take the Dragon Ball away! The Dragon Ball is the hope of Heidi's city. You will push Heidi's city into the abyss. Hearing this voice, everyone was stunned because they realized that this voice did not come from a human. Zhao Shui and Lin Xian were also stunned. They did not expect someone to stop them at the last moment. Finally, the two of them turned their heads and saw a figure walking over from the Dragon Palace. It was an old man with white hair and a walking stick. What was more strange was that he carried a turtle shell on his back that was covered with moss. Xian Turtle Tribe. Another member of the Xian Turtle Tribe. Many people were puzzled because this old man was too old. His hair, eyebrows, and beard almost reached the ground. Needless to say, this was a Xian turtle that had lived for countless years. Lin Xian looked at the old black tortoise and frowned. Although the other party was old and his blood seemed to have dried up, with his sharp soul power, he could feel that the old man's realm was extremely terrifying. He seemed to be above Zhao Shui. I never expected the Xian Turtle Clan to have an 8th Heaven Exalt Realm expert as well. What? 8th Heaven Venerable! Hearing those words, everyone's hearts trembled. They looked at the aged black tortoise and revealed expressions of disbelief. They had never imagined that the black tortoise that could barely walk was actually an 8th Heavenly Layer Exalted Realm expert. This was a figure who was more powerful than everyone present. If he were to attack, it was likely that no one would be able to stop him. However, the old tortoise shook his head slightly. I can't. I'm old. Although my cultivation is still there, I can't use much of my battle strength. The old tortoise's voice was old. He looked at the young man in front of him, and his eyes flickered. Because he didn't expect this young man to be able to see through his cultivation with a single glance. Zhao Shui regained her coldness. She glanced at the old tortoise and said coldly, I respect you as a senior and won't attack you. However, I won't return the dragon pearl. It wasn't easy for her to obtain the dragon pearl. How could she return it? After all, it was a treasure left behind by a king. On the side, the seventh heaven Venerable of Merry Woods also said, You know that you have no battle strength left, yet you still dare to stop us. Could it be that there's a secret behind this? Now that the dragon pearl had been taken away by Zhao Shui, there was no hope for him to attack again. However, he still hadn't given up on the dragon pearl. Therefore, now that the old tortoise had appeared, it might be a chance for him. The old tortoise trembled slightly as he walked in front of everyone. His old voice sounded again. I've lived for thousands of years and my life is about to come to an end. In my final years, I really don't want to see the underwater city fall into endless danger. Thousands of years! Hearing this, everyone was shocked again. They didn't expect this old man to have lived for so long, even longer than an ordinary king. On one hand, warriors cultivated to obtain great power. On the other hand, they wanted to obtain a longer lifespan. This was because only by living could they enjoy everything. Generally, venerables only had a lifespan of 500 to 800 years. Once they advanced to king, they could live up to 1,000 years. However, a king could only live up to 2,000 years at most. It was impossible to live any longer because this was the rule of heaven and earth. No one could change this unless they broke through to the next realm. However, the Xian tortoise tribe seemed to be somewhat special. This was because the Xian tortoise tribe was a goblin tribe. Their lifespan was originally longer than that of humans. Naturally, the strong warriors in the tribe could live longer. Therefore, it was possible that the strong warrior of the Xian tortoise tribe could live for thousands of years. However, even if he lived for thousands of years, he couldn't escape the fate of death. Life and death reincarnation. It seemed that no one could escape from this rule. At least, from what Lin Xian knew, no warrior in any realm could escape from it. He didn't know if a realm beyond his knowledge could do it. The old Xian tortoise's words seemed to resonate with everyone, especially those of the older generation. Their eyes flickered as they remained silent. They had lived for hundreds of years and were close to the end of their lives. That was why they had followed the young man into the remote sky secret realm. They wanted to take a gamble and find treasures in the secret realm to break through their cultivation. Only then could they extend their lifespan. At this moment, seeing the old Xian tortoise who was about to die, they naturally resonated with him. You may not know this, but this dragon ball can be said to be the guardian of the underwater city. There are countless sea clan near the dragon ball. Every year, they will contribute their strength to the dragon ball, and the dragon ball is responsible for protecting the peace of the entire underwater city. This has been going on for thousands of years. I clearly remember that before the dragon ball appeared, this underwater city would often create tremors, tsunamis, and countless undercurrents, which posed a great threat to the Sea Clan. Ever since the dragon ball appeared, these disasters have disappeared. Therefore, for the safety of the underwater city, you can't take the dragon clan away. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect the dragon ball to have such a function. Could it be that this dragon ball can affect the laws of this world? The Crimson Dragon cried out in surprise. Speaking of which, his cultivation realm was the highest, so his knowledge was naturally far greater than these people's. When he heard the old Xian tortoise's words, he immediately frowned. If it could affect the laws of nature, this dragon ball would be too terrifying. Chapter 1100. One had to know that mountain torrents, tsunamis, and undercurrents were all natural phenomena. No matter how powerful the treasure was, it could only affect some of them. It could not completely control them. Moreover, there had not been any tsunamis within 1,000 years of the Dragon Ball's appearance. This was already controlling the world. It was too strange. The cultivation of the surrounding warriors was too low to understand the Crimson Dragon's words. However, Zhao Shui and the 7th level Venerable frowned slightly when they heard it. The old black tortoise was also a little surprised. He did not expect that there would be someone who knew so much. He sighed and continued, "Indeed, nothing can control the world. But what if these disasters were not caused by the world?" "What? Not caused by the world? Could it be caused by humans?" Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Powerful warriors could split mountains and rivers and cause disasters. This was not a problem. However, it was only in an instant, or in a very short period of time. No one had heard of anyone who could create disasters for hundreds or thousands of years. This was simply impossible. Even a king would not be able to do it. But now, the old black tortoise was telling everyone that the disasters in the past were man-made. This was simply too unbelievable. "Are you sure?" Lin Xian was also very surprised. He could not think of what kind of expert could do this. The crimson dragon frowned and looked very unnatural. It whispered to itself, "Could it be him?" "Who?" Lin Xian quickly asked after hearing it. The crimson dragon did not speak, but looked at Lin Xian meaningfully. Seeing Rizalong's expression, Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. He quickly thought of a name. This name was the target he was looking for this time, and it was also the name of this secret realm. Heavenly Netherbird. Perhaps only those ancient ferocious beasts would be able to cause such a disaster. "Who are you talking about?" the surrounding cultivators asked anxiously. They really wanted to know what kind of existence could do this. However, before Lin Xian could say anything, an exciting aura suddenly surged from below the underwater city. Feeling this aura, everyone's hair stood on end as fear rose from the bottom of their hearts. Even the 7th level honorable and Zhao Shui from Merry Woods frowned as if they were facing a great enemy, not to mention the ordinary disciples. The old black turtle's expression also changed drastically, and his aged voice trembled slightly. "It's him! It's him! It's alive again!" Lin Xian's expression was also grave because that aura was too terrifying. It was as if there was a ball of flames that wanted to roast his body. This was too inconceivable. One had to know that this was the bottom of the sea. How could there be a fire? Even if there was, it wouldn't be able to burn. However, the aura was extremely scorching, bringing with it a terrifying heat that even melted the seawater. However, the aura left as quickly as it came, disappearing without a trace in an instant. Many disciples gasped for breath with ghastly pale countenances, and their entire bodies were drenched in sweat. What was down there? The elder of Divine Bird Palace kept gasping for breath, his face full of horror. At that moment they were like ants meeting a giant golden dragon, producing an uncontrollable fear. That fear came from the depths of their bodies, from their blood, and was simply uncontrollable. This was too shocking. One had to know that their ancestor was the three-headed divine bird, an extremely powerful existence. Although these people didn't have as pure a bloodline as their ancestor, they were descendants after all, and their bodies contained a trace of the divine bird's bloodline. Even so, they couldn't resist that aura at all, and so they were terrified. The other disciples were also frightened. Wasn't this underwater city already under the sea? How could there be something down there? Who knew what kind of monster was down there? A group of warriors felt their scalps tingle, and their faces were full of horror. They didn't dare to stay any longer. The old black turtle sighed and then said softly, "You should have heard of the heavenless demonic beasts." "Heavenless demonic beasts?" Hearing this, everyone was shocked and stopped running away with a suspicious look on their faces. "Isn't that a legendary demonic beast? Does it really exist? It's actually a heavenless demonic beast. This is incredible!" Everyone was discussing and was shocked. In this world, other than humans, there were also demonic beasts, all kinds of demonic beasts. In the ancient times, there were experts who categorized these demonic beasts into heaven list and earth list. Any demonic beast that could be on the heaven list was an extremely powerful existence in the world. Among them, the demonic beasts on the heaven list were even more terrifying. Each of them was a peerless beast, and their power was unimaginable. However, as time passed, the powerful sects of the ancient times declined, and those heavenless demonic beasts gradually disappeared. Now, only a few earthless demonic beasts still existed. The heavenless demonic beasts seemed to have become legends. That was why these disciples were so shocked when they heard about the heavenless demonic beasts. Seeing that everyone knew about the legend of the heavenless demonic beasts, the old black turtle continued. Among the heavenless demonic beasts, there is a demonic beast that is rank 7th, called the Great Xia Dragonfinch. What? The Great Xia Dragonfinch? How is that possible? Hearing this, everyone screamed. The older generation figures were also shocked. Even Zhao Shui and Marywood's Venerable Seven couldn't believe it. The Great Xia Dragonfinch was a terrifying existence that was ranked 7th on the heavenless demonic beasts. It was definitely a peerless beast. With their cultivation, they couldn't even resist a trace of the other party's aura. Everyone was terrified, and many of them even wanted to escape. If it was really the Great Xia Dragonfinch, then they wouldn't have any chance to resist. Not to mention them, the entire Tianwu continent would probably cease to exist. One had to know that these people were all disciples of the top sects in the continent, so they knew a lot of things. For example, they knew about the legend of the Great Xia Dragonfinch. It was the guardian beast of the Great Xia Kingdom. The Great Xia Kingdom was not the Great Xia Kingdom that Lin Xian came from. It was a true ancient divine kingdom. Legend had it that outside the Tianwu continent, there was an even wider world, and the Great Xia Kingdom was one of them. It was said that the Great Xia Kingdom's territory was very vast, even larger than the entire Tianwu continent. One could imagine how powerful this kingdom was. Perhaps even the top king of the Tianwu continent wouldn't be able to cause any waves in the Great Xia Kingdom. And this dragonfinch was the strongest divine beast in the Great Xia Kingdom, protecting the safety of the entire Great Xia Kingdom. It was definitely an extremely terrifying existence, an existence that everyone could only look up to. However, as time passed, the Great Xia Kingdom seemed to have disappeared, and the Great Xia Dragonfinch also became a legend. Chapter 1101. Furthermore, it was said that from then on, the entire Tianwu continent had become an endless sea. Even a king could not fly over it. In the end, the outside world became a legend, and people treated this matter as a myth. However, they did not expect to hear news of the Great Xia Dragonfinch in the remote sky secret realm. At this moment, the Crimson Dragon snorted coldly. What kind of joke is this? How can it be the Great Xia Dragonfinch? If it really is the Great Xia Dragonfinch, I'm afraid the entire secret realm will cease to exist. The Crimson Dragon's voice rang out, causing everyone to shiver. Following that, everyone's faces were filled with doubt. That's right, what kind of terrifying existence could easily destroy the entire Tianwu continent? How could a secret realm trap it? The Crimson Dragon had come to look for the heavenly Netherbird, but now the Great Xia Dragonfinch had appeared. This made him very skeptical, so he retorted. The others also came to their senses and stared at the old black tortoise, their faces full of doubt. Could it be that you deliberately made up a story to deceive us in order to protect the Dragon Ball? That's right, how could it be the legendary Great Xia Dragonfinch? The group of people stared at the old black tortoise in disbelief. The old black tortoise shook his head slightly and sighed. You've misunderstood. The real Great Xia Dragonfinch has long disappeared in the long river of history. The one below is not the Great Xia Dragonfinch, but the heavenly Netherbird. The heavenly Netherbird has a trace of the Great Xia Dragonfinch's bloodline, and its strength is terrifying. It is also a demonic beast on the heaven list. In ancient times, this heavenly Netherbird bewitched the world and was sealed in this secret realm by a peerless expert. This seal not only seals it, but also consumes its strength at all times. I'm afraid it can't use much of its strength now. But even so, it's not something we can resist. After all, none of the demonic beasts on the heaven list are easy to deal with. Furthermore, as time passes, the seal will loosen. I'm afraid it won't be long before the heavenly Netherbird breaks out of the seal. At that time, not only will it be a disaster for the entire underwater city, but the remote sky secret realm will also fall into eternal damnation. And if he recovers his strength, I'm afraid your world won't be spared either." Hearing this, everyone fell silent. The old black tortoise was right. Although the heavenly netherbird was not as strong as the great sea dragonfinch, it was still a demonic beast on the heaven list. Moreover, the aura that everyone felt just now was really too terrifying. It was not something they could resist. If the other party really came out, none of them would be able to escape. Therefore, everyone's hearts were heavy, and their expressions were ugly. However, there was one exception, and that was Lin Xian. The corner of his mouth curled up, revealing a trace of joy. This was because the main reason he came here was to find the heavenly netherbird. Originally, he had only come to try his luck and wasn't completely confident. However, after hearing what the old tortoise said, he was certain that the heavenly netherbird was sealed under the underwater city. Only the flames produced by peerless beasts could burn in the endless sea and never be extinguished. As if responding to the old black turtle's words, an extremely low and obscure voice came from the depths of the ground. It was as if it was an illusion, but also as if it was real. Accompanied by this voice, everyone's bodies trembled as if they were in an endless sea of fire. The spiritual energy in their bodies was about to be roasted. Buzz! Lin Xian also felt this heat. Immediately, the big red sword soul in his body seemed to be activated and let out a sonorous sword hum. The big dragon sword soul rarely had such a phenomenon. One could imagine how terrifying the other party was. The old black turtle's body swayed as if it would fall at any moment. Lin Xian took a deep breath and then sighed. He could tell that the old black turtle didn't have much time left to live. This was because with his perception, he could clearly feel that the blood in the old black turtle's body had almost dried up. It could be said that it was a miracle that it could live until now. At the same time, he kept thinking about the news from before. Although he had obtained countless treasures, none of them were as important as this news because it was really good news for him. However, the only thing that worried him was that the heavenly netherbird was too strong. He was afraid that with his current strength, he wouldn't be able to contend against it. It seemed that he could only think of another way. At this moment, the old black turtle spoke again. "The Dragon Ball contains powerful energy that can help prolong the seal for a little longer. It can also suppress and eliminate the disaster caused by the heavenly netherbird. So, please return the Dragon Ball." Hearing this, everyone fell silent and looked at Zhao Shui because the Dragon Ball was in her hands. Feeling the gazes of so many people, Zhao Shui's expression didn't change. She still said in a cold voice, "Using the Dragon Clan to suppress it will only prolong it for a while. It won't solve the problem at all. Moreover, from the aura just now, the seal below is already very loose. I'm afraid that even with the Dragon Ball, it won't last long. Now that the Dragon Ball is gone, it might be better. You can make plans in advance and maybe find a new way out. So, I won't return the Dragon Ball." Zhao Shui decisively refused. She was right. Even if she kept the Dragon Ball, with the current situation, it would only be able to suppress it for 1 or 2 years. After that, it wouldn't be able to suppress it at all. At that time, these people would still have to suffer a disaster. Therefore, whether or not the Dragon Ball was taken away, the result was the same for these sea pearls. Moreover, the Dragon Ball was very important to her, so no matter what, she wouldn't give it up. Hearing this, everyone fell silent and didn't say anything because they knew Zhao Shui's analysis. The old tortoise sighed. He was extremely disappointed. Lin Xian also sighed slightly. Indeed, the situation in the underwater city wasn't optimistic. Even if they didn't come to snatch the Dragon Ball, they probably wouldn't be able to survive for long. The old tortoise was extremely disappointed. To be honest, before this, he didn't believe that a human could take away the Dragon Ball. Therefore, he didn't pay much attention at first. However, by the time he noticed, it was already too late. These humans had already taken away the Dragon Ball. Moreover, he also knew that what he said was the truth. Even if they had the Dragon Ball, they wouldn't be able to survive for long. "I didn't expect this to be the outcome. I can only use my last bit of strength to contribute to this underwater city. At the end of his sentence, the old tortoise's eyes suddenly emitted a terrifying light. His bent body instantly straightened up. An extremely surging power erupted from his body and swept in all directions. Chapter 11:02. Eighth Heaven, Venerable Realm. Feeling this aura, everyone's expression changed. They did not expect the old black turtle to suddenly erupt with such tyrannical power. This power was too strong. Even Zhao Shui and the seventh heaven venerable of Merry Woods could not resist it. Lin Xian also quickly used the red lotus armor to protect his body, and at the same time, he kept retreating. At the same time, he sensed that the spiritual power, and qi and blood in the old black turtle's body were burning rapidly. It was because he burned his life without caring about the consequences that he erupted with such a terrifying aura. Damn it, this old guy doesn't want to die with us, does he? The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace screamed crazily. Hearing this, everyone's expression became extremely ugly. If the old black turtle really wanted to die with them, they would not be able to escape at all. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. There was no fear on his face because he knew that the old black turtle would not do this. This was because this power was obtained by burning qi and blood and life. It was impossible to kill everyone. Moreover, it was useless no matter what the old black turtle did. After all, things had already happened. Even if he killed them all, it could not be reversed. Therefore, he did not think that the old black turtle wanted to kill them. Sure enough, Lin Xian's guess was right. The old black turtle did not attack them. Instead, he used the last of his strength to quickly send a voice transmission to the underwater city and even the Sea Clan further away. All Sea Clan members, listen up. From today onwards, leave the underwater city and even this sea area. Also, don't come back for 100 years. Because a great disaster is about to happen here. This voice turned into rolling waves and spread clearly into the distance. Hearing this voice, everyone fell silent. They did not expect that the old black turtle would not attack them but warned the Sea Clan to evacuate. This action made them fall silent. However, at this moment, a terrifying fluctuation suddenly came from the underground of the underwater city, causing the entire dragon palace to tremble. Then, the surrounding ground cracked and countless trenches appeared. Balls of black flames gushed out from the cracks and burned fiercely. This scene was very strange. This was the bottom of the sea, but there were countless black flames burning endlessly. Moreover, what was even more terrifying was that these black flames were too terrifying. They directly evaporated a large amount of seawater and even distorted the void. Accompanying these flames was an extremely deep voice. Just you wait, I'm about to break the seal. Old Taoist Sang Song, you dared to seal me in the past. I will definitely avenge you. I want your mystic realm to cease to exist. His voice was filled with a primeval aura and endless fury. Hearing this voice, everyone's expression changed. They didn't expect the seal to be so damaged that even the heavenly Netherbird's voice could be heard. This was not good news at all. Not only the human Jinji in the Dragon Palace, but all the sea clans in the underwater city and even the sea areas further away also heard this voice. They were all terrified, and their bodies were trembling. Run! The sealed Great Demon King is about to come out. Damn it, the heavenly Netherbird is crazy. It wants to destroy the entire secret realm. Let's go. We can't stay here any longer. At this moment, everyone was fleeing. They wanted to flee to a safe place. Although the Heaven Serene bird couldn't break the seal for the time being, if it continued to stay in the underwater city, it would be burned to ashes by the black flames. Zhao Shui shouted as she used her movement skill and quickly ran outside. Because the situation was extremely chaotic, and she had the Dragon Ball, who knew if someone would take advantage of the chaos to steal it? Therefore, without any hesitation, she turned into a flash of white lightning and quickly left the place. Lin Xian waved his hand and called back the Crimson Dragon and the Snow-White Monkey. Then, he used the phantom demonic steps and turned into a flash of sword light, disappearing. The two of them were very fast and disappeared in an instant. Seeing Lin Xian leave, Elder Song and the others also looked dignified. Then, they said in a deep voice, "Follow me and break out with all your strength." The people of the Merry Woods and the Divine Bird Palace also fled in all directions, running out of the Dragon Palace. Outside the Dragon Palace, countless sea clans also fled. Because the disaster had already arrived, the black flames coming out of the underground were too terrifying. Even venerables couldn't fight against it. Fortunately, they didn't have to deal with the black flames. They just had to be careful and avoid them. Although it was dangerous, it wasn't fatal. The 7th level venerables of the Merry Woods used a powerful technique to safely bring the people of the Merry Woods out of the Dragon Palace. Then, she said to them, "Hurry up and leave this underwater world. I still have some things to do, don't wait for me." Then, she turned into a flash of ghostly light and instantly rushed into the distance. This direction was the direction that Zhao Shui and Lin Xian had left in. It seemed that the 7th level venerables of the Merry Woods had not given up on the Dragon Ball. The entire underwater world, which was the Mirage Sea Zone, was in panic and disaster. The disciples of Senmu College fought desperately and finally left the Mirage Sea Zone. The moment they stepped on land, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. However, long before this, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui had already left the Mirage Sea. In a low valley, the two rays of light flickered and then turned into two figures. One was a tall young man with an ancient sword on his back. The other was a beautiful woman in a white dress. The two of them were Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. "Lin Gongzi, thank you for your help," Zhao Shui said. "It's nothing. You helped me find the water spirit pearl. It's my duty to help you." Lin Xian smiled. Zhao Shui nodded her head. "All right, since that's the case, I'll take my leave first. See you next time." "Wait," Xian suddenly said. "Why? Do you have something else?" Zhao Shui frowned slightly and looked unhappy. What she wanted to do now was to quickly refine the energy inside the Dragon Pearl. She didn't want to do anything else. "I have a plan. I wonder if you're interested?" Lin Xian said slowly. Zhao Shui shook her head slightly. "Forget it, I have other things to do. We'll talk about other things next time." She turned to leave. At this moment, Lin Xian's voice floated from behind. "Once this plan succeeds, I can guarantee that the benefits you will receive will be many times more powerful than the energy in the Dragon Ball." "What?" Hearing this, Zhao Shui was stunned. She stopped in her tracks and looked confused. Then, she turned around with a cold smile on her beautiful face. "Lin Gongzi, don't joke around. How can such a thing be possible? The Dragon Ball is a treasure left behind by a king. I can't think of anything here that can be many times more powerful than it." Seeing Zhao Shui's look of disbelief, Lin Xian smiled and whispered a few words. After hearing this, Zhao Shui's pupils shrank. Then, she raised her head and looked at Lin Xian in shock. Chapter 1103. You dare to have designs on the heavenly netherbird? Are you tired of living?" Zhao Shui was shocked. She didn't expect him to be more daring than her to have designs on an ancient beast. This was no longer madness, it was simply courting death. "It's nothing. The greater the risk, the greater the benefits. I think you understand this principle. Furthermore, the heavenly netherbird has been imprisoned for thousands of years. I'm afraid it can't use much of its strength. Furthermore, we don't want to kill the heavenly netherbird. We just want to obtain some benefits from it. I think it should be much easier." Lin Xian smiled and said, "Of course, if you're not willing, then forget it. I'll find someone else. However, if you agree, I can protect you for free so that you can absorb the energy from the Dragon Ball quickly." After listening to Lin Xian's plan, Zhao Shui was speechless. She quickly thought about it. Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back with a smile on his face. The reason why he looked for Zhao Shui was because she was his old friend. Although she had lost her memories, Lin Xian still wanted to work with her. Furthermore, from the way Zhao Shui obtained the Dragon Ball, he realized that Zhao Shui desperately needed power. It should be known that the murderous aura in the Dragon Ball had a significant effect on a 7th level honored. However, Zhao Shui was determined to obtain the Dragon Ball. This was enough to show her desire for power. Now, there was a source of power that was even greater than the Dragon Ball. He didn't believe that Zhao Shui could resist this temptation. Indeed, after thinking for a moment, Zhao Shui quickly nodded and said, "Okay, I agree. However, if the heavenly netherbird really threatens my life, I will stop working with you." "Don't worry, I won't joke about my life." Lin Xian shrugged. Since they had decided to work together, the two of them met again and quickly discussed the next steps. At this moment, the void fluctuated and a figure appeared nearby. This figure was the 7th level honored from Merry Woods. He followed Lin Xian and Zhao Shui and left the underwater world. From his point of view, Zhao Shui and Lin Xian did not know each other before. Both of them were just partners. Therefore, after leaving the underwater world, they would definitely act alone. By then, Zhao Shui would be alone and he would have a chance to snatch her away. However, the scene in front of him surprised him because the two of them did not leave. Instead, they gathered together and seemed to be chatting happily. It seemed that the relationship between the two was closer than when they were in the underwater city. Immediately, his expression became extremely ugly. He did not have full confidence in dealing with Zhao Shui. Now, with the addition of the mysterious Lin Xian, it made things even more difficult for him. Even though Lin Xian's cultivation base was far lower than his, the sword chi that Lin Xian had unleashed and the scarlet armor had made the 7th level venerate frown. Thus, after struggling for a moment, the 7th rank exalted let out a sigh and left. The appearance and departure of the 7th level honored from Merry Woods did not escape the senses of Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and smiled. However, Zhao Shui sneered. "He ran fast." There was a hint of anger in her voice. It seemed that if the 7th level honored had told her everything, Zhao Shui would have immediately gone berserk. Next, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui chatted for a while. Most of the time, Lin Xian asked Zhao Shui questions and wanted to know about her past. However, after listening, Lin Xian was expressionless but his heart was extremely heavy. From the information he received, not only did Zhao Shui lose her memory, it seemed that her previous memories had been tampered with by someone else. Could it be that she was possessed? Lin Xian sighed and asked the Crimson Dragon through telepathy. The Crimson Dragon replied cautiously. "I'm not sure if it was a possession, but looking at him, he definitely isn't an old monster. And if it was someone from the younger generation, it would be very difficult to succeed. Of course, this doesn't mean that there is an old monster helping him. Looks like we can only wait and see." Lin Xian did not have any good ideas. Just as he was thinking about Zhao Shui, a large group of people flew over from afar. "Junior Lin!" Many shouts came from afar. Lin Xian turned his head and saw that those people were from Senma College. Upon seeing these people, Lin Xian quickly stood up. With a tap of his foot, his body rushed over. "Elder Song, everyone, you should leave quickly. I'm afraid that the seal below will not last much longer," Lin Xian said quickly. This news was given to him by Zero. When he heard the news, he was extremely shocked. He did not expect the seal below to be damaged to such an extent. It was on the verge of breaking. Hearing Lin Xian's words, Elder Song and the others' hearts tightened. The faces of the disciples changed drastically. "What about you? What do you plan to do next?" Duge Tian looked at Lin Xian and asked in a deep voice. "I have other things to do, so I won't go with you," Lin Xian said quickly. "Everyone, leave quickly. Otherwise, your lives will be in danger." With that, Lin Xian waved his hand and turned to leave with Zhao Shui. "What? Lin Xian wants to act alone? No way, he is too bold. Although he is powerful, acting alone in the remote sky secret realm is much more dangerous. Forget it. Junior Lin is very mysterious. I don't think he will be in any danger. Yes, we are the ones in danger. If the heavenly nether bird comes out, we will be dead." The group of people discussed quickly. Elder Song also said in a deep voice, "Let's leave quickly." Everyone quickly moved and ran into the distance. At the same time, the warriors of Divine Bird Palace and Merry Woods also left Haitian City and ran away. Just as they left, the sea behind them suddenly exploded. A huge whirlpool appeared in the sea. Balls of black flames surged out of the whirlpool and instantly covered the entire sea. Endless sea water evaporated and formed clouds. Pillars of black flames as thick as mountains rose from the sea and connected the sky and the earth. The entire sea was torn apart in an instant. An extremely terrifying aura came from the depths of the sea. In an instant, the entire Mirage Sea area and even the surrounding areas were shrouded in a terrifying demonic aura. The disciples of the three major sects who had just left trembled and looked back in horror. Especially the disciples of Senmu College, they were terrified. Fortunately, Lin Xian had warned them to leave quickly. Otherwise, they would have been crushed into powder by that terrifying aura if they were a step late. Behind them, countless cracks appeared in the sea. Endless sea water surged out of the whirlpool. Endless black flames rose and then a huge figure rushed out of the sea. Chapter 1104. Roar. What followed was an earth-shattering roar. The roar was filled with boundless rage and violent power. In an instant, the surrounding ocean exploded. The sea demons that did not manage to escape in time were turned into a bloody mist. The roar pierced through the 9 heavens. Tens of thousands of sea demons died. It was a terrifying sight. A huge shadow appeared in the sky. It was a pitch-black demonic bird. Its black feathers looked like they were made of steel. There were balls of flames dancing on them like the flames of hell. Its body was so huge that it was almost as big as the entire Mirage Sea. It was like a burning gray cloud, exuding a destructive power in the air, causing everything in the surroundings to kneel and submit. The heavenly Netherbird! Countless people screamed in horror. "Oh my God! It really came out!" The heavenly Netherbird broke the seal and reappeared in the world. However, it did not leave. Instead, it circled in the sky. The reason for that was because there were several black chains on its body that bound its body. The chains were pitch black as if they were made of iron from hell. If one did not look carefully, they would not be noticed. This was because the color of the heavenly Netherbird's body was too similar. It was almost as if they were one. In fact, these chains were not originally this color. They were originally azure blue. However, after being burned by the heavenly Netherbird's black flames for thousands of years, they became black. However, this also showed how terrifying these chains were from another perspective. After being burned by such powerful black flames for thousands of years, they did not break. There was not even a crack. It was unbelievable. In the distance, many cultivators looked up in horror. Looking at the terrifying figure, their faces were filled with fear. Some of the weaker disciples even trembled and sat down on the ground. "Is this the heavenly Netherbird? It's too terrifying. Just this aura alone is unbearable. As expected of an expert on the heaven roll, an ancient demon bird. Although it had been suppressed for thousands of years and was no longer as strong as before, its aura was not any weaker than the king. How strong would the heavenly Netherbird be when it was at its peak? Although it had been suppressed for thousands of years, the heavenly Netherbird's aura was still too terrifying. It was not something that anyone could withstand. In the sky, the heavenly Netherbird's huge body covered the sky. It flapped its wings in an attempt to break free from the black chains. However, the more it struggled, the tighter the restraints became. Roar! With a furious roar, the heavenly Netherbird opened its bloody mouth and spat out black flames. A black flame gushed out like a fireball from hell and hit the surface of the sea in an instant. Suddenly, the flames spread across the surface of the sea, covering more than half of the sea. Countless sea demons let out miserable cries as they were burned to ashes by the black flames. After doing all this, the heavenly Netherbird still seemed to be confused. It spat out another beam of black flames. Suddenly, the sea was penetrated and the underwater city was razed to the ground by this beam of black flames. Those sea monsters that had not yet escaped were also left at the bottom of the sea forever under this blow. Blood spread and dyed the entire sea red. Endless miserable cries rose and fell one after another. The entire sea seemed to have turned into an azure hell. The surviving sea monsters all felt their scalps go numb as they frantically ran outside. The heavenly netherbird spread its wings and covered the sky like two dark clouds. It struggled with all its might and flew into the sky. Rumble! Then, the entire ground began to tremble as if an earthquake had occurred. Countless cracks spread across thousands of miles, spreading in all directions. The sea was even more turbulent as the waves rolled up and roared. The heavenly netherbird's body was covered in black flames. It was like a divine bird of the underworld as it quickly flew into the sky. Boom! With an earth-shattering sound, a huge crater appeared on the ground. Countless amounts of seawater flowed into the crater. Under the heavenly serene bird's struggle, the broken seal was finally broken. The chains also left the ground and flew into the sky with the heavenly serene bird. However, the black chains were very intelligent. The moment they left the seal, they intertwined and quickly wrapped around the heavenly netherbird's body. This made the heavenly netherbird, who had just escaped the seal, extremely angry. The flames on its body surged as it tried to break free from the black chains. However, after struggling for a long time, it was to no avail. Moreover, the chains became tighter and tighter as if they were about to sink into its flesh. Damn the astral chains! Not only did they trap me for thousands of years, but they even absorbed my energy to repair themselves. What's worse is that I've been trapped in the 9 underworlds all these years. I can't even absorb energy from the outside world. Ah, damn old Taoist Sang Song. One day, I'll break these chains and completely destroy your secret realm. However, no matter how much you calculated, you couldn't have predicted that I would break the seal again. Wait until I find your nest in the secret realm and break these astral chains. Let's see if anyone in this world can stop me. The heavenly netherbird's terrifying voice was like thunder. It was accompanied by black flames that bombarded all directions. Instantly, everything within a radius of 1,000 miles was flattened. Then, it flapped its wings and quickly disappeared into the sky. It wasn't until a long time after the heavenly netherbird disappeared that the surviving creatures finally let out a sigh of relief. They were the disciples of the 3 great sections. Their faces were pale as they sat on the ground, gasping for breath. What happened just now was too terrifying. If the heavenly netherbird had stayed for a while longer, it would have definitely affected them. At that time, they wouldn't have been able to escape, and would have disappeared from this world forever like the sea demons. However, the heavenly netherbird wasn't interested in them. It had only killed the sea demons to vent its anger for thousands of years. Its real goal was to break the astral chains on its body and obtain true freedom. This was because the astral chains were very special. Not only did it restrict its body, but it also prevented it from cultivating. Therefore, it had to break the astral chains in order to return to its peak state. After the heavenly netherbird left, the surviving sea demons all fled. The cultivators of the 3 great sects also hurriedly went on their way and fled. Who knew if the heavenly netherbird would come back? If they encountered it, it would be over. Just as everyone was fleeing, 2 figures flew in the opposite direction. They were flying in the direction that the heavenly netherbird left. These 2 figures were Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. The 2 of them didn't fly in the air. Instead, they ran along the ground. Even so, their speed was very fast. They were like 2 bolts of lightning that flashed by. Chapter 1105. Lin Xian, have you really decided to follow the heavenly netherbird? If we're discovered, we won't have any chance of escaping. Zhao Shui was worried because the destruction caused by the heavenly netherbird was too terrifying. Even the terrifying mirage sea was evaporated, let alone 2 humans. Lin Xian was calmer. He said, "Don't worry, we don't have to follow too closely. We just have to follow the remaining black flames. The heavenly netherbird is definitely connected to the secret territory. It must know where the core of the secret territory is. That's the most valuable place in the secret territory. Hearing this, Zhao Shui took a deep breath and her eyes flashed. Indeed, the remote heavenly secret territory was very vast. Although there were humans who entered every time, they only explored 1/10 of the territory. There were still 90% of the territory that humans had not explored. If they followed the heavenly netherbird, they might really be able to find the core of the secret territory. Therefore, she gritted her teeth and followed. The two of them did not dare to get too close. However, it was impossible for them to get too close. The heavenly netherbird was too fast. In the blink of an eye, it had already disappeared. Fortunately, the black flames on its body scattered on the ground and guided Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. However, they gradually realized that the black flames on the ground were decreasing rapidly. This meant that the heavenly netherbirds' speed had reached a terrifying level. However, the two of them were experts in soul power. Their soul power was very strong and sensitive. Therefore, although they could not find the black flames, they could sense the traces left behind by the black flames in the air. With these traces, they could continue to follow. When they realized that the black flames lingered in the air for a long time, the two of them calmed down and followed slowly. Now, the two of them were not in a hurry. They believed that as long as they maintained their speed and followed the black flames, they would eventually find the heavenly netherbird. Along the way, Zhao Shui even tried to absorb the energy from the Dragon Ball. Lin Xian was not idle either. He would also quickly absorb the energy from the Water Spirit Ball. The two of them walked and cultivated. Their days were very fulfilling. A few days later, Lin Xian frowned as he felt an energy similar to that of the Dragon Ball on Zhao Shui. Not only that, but this aura also carried a trace of evil qi. After frowning and pondering for a moment, Lin Xian finally spoke. "Are you really not afraid of the evil qi's backlash? If we lose control at that time, I'm afraid the losses will outweigh the gains." Upon hearing Lin Xian's warning, Zhao Shui remained expressionless. She faintly said, "Don't worry, I've only absorbed a small portion of the Dragon Ball's power. Its true purpose is not prepared for me. Not for you?" This time, it was Lin Xian's turn to be stunned. He did not understand what Zhao Shui meant. Did she want to give the Dragon Ball to someone else? However, Zhao Shui did not answer and he was too embarrassed to ask further. But he soon understood. After another day, Zhao Shui stopped absorbing the energy from the Dragon Ball. She did not transfer the Dragon Ball to anyone else. Instead, a gray shadow appeared behind her. The shadow was very hazy, like a closed eye. Virtual sky eye. Seeing this shadow, Lin Xian was slightly surprised. He knew that this was Zhao Shui's ultimate skill, but he did not expect her to use it now. Zhao Shui did not explain. Instead, she placed the Dragon Ball into the virtual sky eye and continued on her way. The virtual sky eye trembled slightly, then completely swallowed the Dragon Ball and began to absorb the energy from the Dragon Ball. Lin Xian was shocked. He only now understood that the Dragon Ball was prepared for the virtual sky eye. At the same time, the Crimson Dragon quickly transmitted a message. "Kid, you better be careful. This virtual sky eye is very evil. Legend has it that when cultivated to the peak, you can summon a real evil eye." "A real evil eye? Is that real or fake? What is this evil eye?" Lin Xian was surprised. "I'm not sure what it is exactly, but from history, any warrior who cultivated the virtual sky eye did not have a good ending. If this little girl insists on cultivating it, I'm afraid she won't have a good ending in the future." Hearing this, Lin Xian's heart trembled. Then, he quickly used his soul power to communicate with the Crimson Dragon. In the end, he fell silent. This was because the Crimson Dragon didn't know too much. However, from these few sentences, it could tell that the Void Sky Eye was very strange. It was a famous evil technique in ancient times. Lin Xian sighed in his heart. He did not know how Zhao Shui obtained this skill, but it seemed that it was impossible to make her stop cultivating it. It seemed that he could only think of a way in the future. Just as Lin Xian and the others were rushing, the disciples of the other sects in the remote sky secret realm were also moving quickly, looking for their own opportunities and treasures. In a mountain range, there was a cave. In front of the cave, there were countless warriors. These people were the elite disciples of the various sections. In front of the cave, there was a voice opposing the crowd. This man was wearing a blue shirt. His eyes were deep like the starry sky. Although he did not emit any terrifying aura, he blocked the crowd outside the cave with his own strength. Shinsong, although you are a member of the House of Kings, it is impossible for you to take the treasure for yourself. The person who spoke was a young man in a white robe. He was holding a sword in his hand. The sword trembled with a biting cold aura. However, although the sword chi was sharp, there were many injuries on his body. His white robe was also torn a few times, and there were faint bloodstains on it. He looked at the figure in front of him and said coldly, "That's right. Isn't it just a stone tablet? Why do you want to take it for yourself? Why don't we comprehend it together?" A beautiful lady said. She looked at the cave with flickering eyes. "Do you really think that you can go against 3 7th level honorables?" This time, it was an old man who spoke. 3 7th level honorables. To think that the 3 of them were actually 7th level honorables. This was simply too shocking. If the 3 7th level honorables joined forces, no one would be able to stop them. However, the man named Shinsong was expressionless. He did not even frown. He glanced at the 3 of them and said calmly, "Just 3 7th level honorables in the beginning stage. You guys are not enough. Presumptuous. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish." The old man was enraged. He took a step forward and the aura on his body exploded. Countless lightning bolts surged and surrounded the old man, emitting a sharp aura. Chapter 1106. At the same time, the other 2 roared and circulated their auras to the maximum. Streaks of sharp sword chi circled around the young man, making him look like a sword. On the other hand, streaks of colorful light formed on the woman's body and enveloped her. "Courting death? I think you're the ones courting death." Shinsong was not afraid of the 3 7th rank powerhouses. Then, he stretched out his finger and pointed. "Lightning dominates the world!" The old man in gray attacked as well. Lightning flashed in the sky and formed a ferocious lightning beast. It charged forward quickly with endless lightning flashing. However, the finger was too sharp. It was like a divine spear that could pierce through everything. In an instant, the sea of lightning that was emitting a terrifying aura was cut open. Then, the finger radiance rushed toward the old man in gray. Boom! There was an earth-shattering sound. The finger radiance hit the old man's body and forced him to retreat. The old man in gray's arm was numb. He kept retreating and spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this scene, the surrounding martial artists were all shocked. "This is unbelievable. Shinsong is only a 7th rank honorable, but he can easily injure cultivators of the same level. This is really incomprehensible. Is this the power of a powerhouse from the House of Kings? It's really terrifying. The cultivators of the same level from the other large sects can't compete with him at all. Didn't you realize that Shinsong hasn't even moved his feet after fighting with so many powerhouses for so long?" Everyone was shocked. Their scalps were numb because the power that Shinsong had displayed was really terrifying. In front of them, the 3 powerhouses were fighting fiercely. The momentum was terrifying, and the light shot into the sky. However, in this intense collision, Shinsong was like a boulder and a pine tree. He stood steadily in the field and did not move a single step. Boom, boom, boom. In the end, Shinsong roared and quickly threw out 3 punches, forcing the 3 7th rank honorables to retreat. The 3 7th rank honorables were forced to retreat and fly out. "Impossible! I don't believe it!" The old man in gray roared ferociously and pretended to be crazy. He could not believe that Lin Fan could fight against 3 7th rank honorables. One should know that they were in the same level. However, the gap between them was huge. He could not accept this. It wasn't just the gray-robed elder, the other two 7th-level venerables were similarly shocked. That punch just now was too terrifying. It shook their blood and chi to the point where they were sent flying. Moreover, from the beginning until the end, Shinsong hadn't moved a single step. In other words, he hadn't used his full strength when dealing with the 3 of them earlier. Thinking of this, everyone felt their scalps go numb. They looked at the figure with fear. Shinsong stood with his hands behind his back. He scanned the surroundings and said in a deep voice, "I've already said that the 3 of you are no match for me. Now that the battle is over, everything in this cave belongs to me. If you're not convinced, we can fight again. Of course, this time, I won't be lenient." At the end of his speech, his eyes gradually became sharp, like 2 heavenly blades that cut through the void. There was nothing else in the cave except for a huge engraved stone tablet. This was no ordinary stone tablet. It was left behind by a king. It recorded some peerless martial arts, as well as the precious experiences of kings. It could be said that this was a treasure that could drive countless unbounded laws crazy. However, this precious thing now belonged to Shin Kong. Everyone was indignant, but there was nothing they could do. General Manager Shin smiled faintly and turned to walk towards the cave. However, at this moment, an extremely powerful force surged from afar. This force was extremely terrifying, as if it could destroy the world. What a terrifying force! Who is this? Is a peerless expert coming? Many martial artists were terrified. As for the 3 7th heavenly layer venerables, their faces were solemn as they looked up in shock. That was because that force made them tremble uncontrollably. This kind of situation was very rare, and they would only tremble uncontrollably when facing a king. A king! This is the aura of a king! Impossible! How is this possible? How can a king enter the remote sky mystery realm? Could it be a native king here? The 3 powerhouses were terrified and couldn't believe it. Shinsong stopped, and his expression was extremely grave. All the muscles in his body tensed up, and the spiritual power in his body circulated rapidly. He was extremely nervous. This force was too powerful. It wasn't inferior to his family's ancestor at all. Just as everyone was extremely nervous, a huge black shadow swept across the sky. The wind howled, lightning flashed, and countless black flames danced. The entire void shattered. What exactly is that? When the crowd saw the mountain-like figure, they were all stunned. That figure was so huge that it covered the entire sky. Everywhere it passed, it created a terrifying scene. Moreover, there was an unbearable heatwave in the air. They knew that it was definitely not a human. Demonic beast, there was actually such a terrifying demonic beast here. It looked like it was definitely a king of monsters. At the thought of this, everyone trembled. Fortunately, the king of monsters wasn't coming for them. It didn't stop there at all and flew past quickly. However, when the black flames fell from the sky and landed on the bodies of the martialists, a large number of them were burned to ashes. Instantly screams were heard. Countless martial artists fled to avoid the black flames that fell from the sky. Shinsong frowned. He also swayed his body and quickly dodged the black flames. What kind of demonic beast was it that had such a terrifying flame aura and an ancient desolate aura? Shinchang's face was terrifyingly gloomy. He realized that things were a little out of his control. In the previous intelligence, there wasn't such a peerless demonic beast. In fact, this was just a small episode. Everywhere the heavenly nether bird passed, it created a doomsday scene. Along the way, a large number of mountains and trees were destroyed. Countless demonic beasts died in the disaster. There were even some unlucky humans who died in this disaster. In the depths of the remote heavenly secret realm, there was a huge ancient tree. It was like a huge mountain that pierced through the clouds. Under the ancient tree, there was a tall and straight young man with a cold face. He was fighting with the demonic beasts around him. Those demonic beasts had human faces and beast bodies. Their bodies were emitting green light. As they flapped their wings, they created tornadoes. Countless wind blades filled the entire space and quickly slashed at the cold young man. These demonic beasts were all wind demon beasts. They were very powerful. Each of them was above the sixth heaven of the martial honor realm. The leader was even a powerful demon general that was equivalent to the seventh heaven of the human realm. Humans wouldn't dare to get involved with such a group of terrifying demonic beasts. However, that young man came here and was not afraid of so many demonic beasts. Ocean Abyss 8 sabers. The young man raised a long saber in his hand and slashed down. Chapter 1107. A blinding saber radiance lit up, and the entire space was quickly annihilated. Countless sharp auras filled the air. The surrounding demonic wind beasts cried out in pain as their bodies were all torn in half by the saber. The ground cracked open, and countless cracks extended into the distance. Far behind the ancient tree, there was a blurry figure. He looked at the scene in front of him and muttered to himself. Yan Feng is indeed an exceptional genius of the Palace of Gods of War. He has reached the seventh heaven honorable realm at such a young age. Moreover, that saber should be the Earth-class martial art, 8 sabers of the sea. I didn't expect him to comprehend it to such a level. The blurry figure muttered to himself. His voice was solemn. The young man called Yan Feng killed the surrounding demonic beasts and walked towards the huge ancient tree. According to the map, after passing through the 1,000-year tree demon, I won't be far from the Pine Palace. Yan Feng muttered. As a core disciple of the Palace of Gods of War and a peerless genius, he knew more information. What was even more fortunate was that he was directly sent to the vicinity of the core area after entering the remote Sky Secret Realm. Therefore, he had the chance to find the Pine Palace. However, in the next moment, his body trembled, and he turned around abruptly. His eyes were filled with shock. This was because there was an extremely powerful aura behind him. It was as though a peerless demon was going to destroy the world. Feeling this aura, his body froze. The blood in his body seemed to be frozen, and he could not activate it at all. Suppression. This was absolute suppression. Cold sweat dripped down Yan Feng's face. He did not know who was behind him, but he knew that if the other party wanted to attack, the aura alone could kill him. In the next moment, he turned around and saw Jin Shiomu, who was extremely shocked. A gigantic black divine bird flew across the sky, bringing with it an endless sea of flames and wild winds. The entire sky was destroyed beyond recognition. As it flapped its wings, the mountains within a radius of 10,000 miles collapsed, turning into water and gravel. This horrifying scene shocked Yan Feng. However, what shocked him even more was that such a powerful demonic beast king seemed to be targeting the Pine Palace as well. Seeing this scene, his expression was extremely ugly. This was because only the Palace of Gods of War knew about the Pine Palace. Other forces did not know about it. Moreover, the location of Deep Pine Hall was extremely mysterious. Ordinary martial artists could not find it at all. If he hadn't been lucky enough to be teleported to the vicinity of Deep Pine Hall, he wouldn't have been able to find it even if he knew about Deep Pine Hall. However, the sudden appearance of this peerless demon disrupted everything. This was because the other party was too obvious and too eye-catching. Wherever they passed, everything was destroyed. Such a large commotion would definitely attract the attention of the other cultivators in the mystic realm. Furthermore, their target was Dark Pine Hall. If someone were to analyze it carefully, they would be able to find out about the existence of Deep Pine Hall. Many martial artists would even act upon hearing the news. At that time, Dark Pine Hall would no longer be a secret. But this is even better. Yan Feng took a deep breath. Originally, I was having a headache because of the powerful restrictive formations in Deep Pine Palace. Now that we have this peerless Yao King, I think we should be able to break through many of the restrictive formations. We might even be able to enter it. Yan Feng's lips curled into a cold smile. Indeed, Deep Pine Hall was the core of the mystic realm. It definitely had powerful defensive formations. With his current strength, it was impossible for him to completely break through these restrictive formations. However, it was different now. With this king-level demonic beast, it would be much easier to break through the restrictive formations in Deep Pine Hall. Thinking of this, he took out a crescent-shaped jade horn from his storage ring and quickly sent a message to it. This was one of the methods the Palace of Gods of War used to transmit information. By transmitting his voice into the jade horn, the inscriptions within would allow the person holding the same jade horn to hear the news. It was very convenient. After sending the message to his companions, Yen Feng's figure flashed and quickly rushed towards Deep Pine Hall. The heavenly netherbird had caused a huge commotion in the mystic realm. In an instant, countless martial artists knew that there was a peerless Yao King in the mystic realm. It was extremely cruel. With a raise of its hand, it could destroy countless mountains. It was extremely cruel, causing thousands of demonic beasts to die in a disaster. However, not everyone thought so. There were a few people who noticed that the Yao King seemed to be impatient and wanted to go somewhere. In fact, many people had already decided to quickly follow and take a look. This was because there would definitely be good things in a place that could move a Yao King. In an instant, the entire hidden sky secret realm was in an uproar. Among them, the Kamas were Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. They had long known of the heavenly netherbird's existence, and knew where it wanted to go. The two of them continued to follow behind. They were not in a hurry at all. They cultivated as they followed. They were not afraid of losing track because the heavenly netherbird was too domineering. Wherever it went, everything would cease to exist. Lin Xian and Zhao Shui only needed to follow the destroyed areas. As they hurried, Lin Xian discovered that the spiritual energy in the surroundings was getting denser. He knew that they were already close to the core of the mystic realm. Therefore, the following journey was not easy. This was because they often encountered powerful demonic beasts along the way. They also saw many martial artists who had the same goal as them. Of course, their gains along the way were not small. After all, this was the core zone. There were many more treasures here than in the periphery. With Lin Xian and Zhao Shui, together with the Crimson Dragon and the Snow-White Monkey, this combination was like a fish in water in the core zone. After walking for another half a day, the two of them stopped to rest and strengthen their cultivation. As they got closer to the core zone, the surroundings became more and more dangerous. Therefore, the two of them had to maintain their physical strength to be able to deal with sudden situations. After finding a safe mountain, the Crimson Dragon set up some formations. Then, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui sat down cross-legged and began to regulate their breathing and cultivate. Lin Xian took out the water spirit pearl and used the longevity secret art to absorb the energy inside. At the same time, he comprehended the water-type elements inside to perfect his ice lotus martial soul. In addition to the many treasures in the hidden sky secret realm, the spiritual energy here was also denser than in the outside world. It could be said that cultivating here was definitely twice the result with half the effort. Not long after, Lin Xian had recovered all the spiritual energy he had consumed during the journey. Next, he had to focus on increasing his cultivation. He was now at the 5th heaven of the Venerable Realm and was breaking through to the 6th heaven. He needed an extremely strong accumulation of spiritual energy. What he needed to do now was to absorb the spiritual energy inside the water spirit pearl to increase the thickness of his spiritual energy protection in preparation for breaking through to the 6th heaven of the Venerable Realm. Chapter 1108. Zhao Shui also sat cross-legged and closed her eyes. Her palm formed a strange seal and an illusory eye appeared behind her. It emitted a strange energy. Zhao Shui was clearly using the void sky eye to absorb the energy within the dragon pearl to strengthen herself. However, she didn't absorb it directly. Instead, she let the void sky eye absorb the energy within the dragon pearl. Not only would this increase her strength, but it would also allow her to break free from the influence of the blood chi within the dragon pearl. The void sky eye began to pulse rhythmically. Every time it pulsed, it would release a powerful aura. Even Lin Xian, who was beside him, was shocked. As expected of a famous ancient cultivation technique, the void sky was truly amazing. The fluctuations it produced shocked even Lin Xian. There were very few cultivation techniques that could cause such an effect on him. This was enough to show how extraordinary the void sky was. However, this was also what he was worried about. The void sky was too strange. He was afraid that Zhao Shui wouldn't be able to control it in the future. Shaking his head, Lin Xian closed his eyes and absorbed the energy within the water spirit pearl again. As he absorbed, his cultivation also increased bit by bit. Half a day later, he opened his eyes and put away the water spirit pearl. He had already reached the upper limit of the amount of energy he could absorb. If he absorbed any more, he wouldn't be able to control it. Now, he could use it freely. After absorbing the water spirit pearl's energy, Lin Xian looked at Zhao Shui and saw that she was still cultivating. Thus, he began to cultivate. This time, he didn't cultivate. Instead, he began to comprehend the blood sword inheritance. Right now, he had 4 martial arts that were his strongest pillars. 2 of them were Earth-class martial arts, Gale Lightning Sword Art and Phantom Demon Steps. The other 2 were King's inheritances. One was the Pill Dao inheritance left behind by the Niwa of Gojoseon. The other was the Blood Sword inheritance left behind by the Blood Sword Monarch. Right now, Lin Xian wanted to comprehend the Blood Sword inheritance. Previously, he had already comprehended the 4th level of the Blood Sword inheritance. Now, looking at the wretched state around him, he was enlightened once again. Just from the name, one could tell that the Blood Sword inheritance could only be improved through battle and slaughter. Although Lin Xian hadn't engaged in any fierce battles these days, he had personally witnessed the destruction caused by the Heaven Nether Bird. That kind of devastation was even more terrifying than the battles he had experienced before. With a casual wave of its hand, it could destroy mountains and rivers. Lin Xian took a deep breath. Streaks of blood-red sword aura appeared around him and quickly circled him. The bloodstains on the ground also began to tremble. Finally, they turned into small swords that rapidly shuttled through the air. In the end, countless blood-red swords appeared where Lin Xian was standing, connecting together to form a hellish scene. That terrifying scene caused the remaining demonic beasts in the surroundings to tremble and quickly flee. Boom! Suddenly, the sea of blood surged and quickly split apart. Then, a blood sword pierced through heaven and earth. The Blood Sword inheritance. Lin Xian was overjoyed. He didn't expect to be able to break through so quickly. It must be because he had witnessed the scene caused by the Heaven Nether Bird. It was too shocking, too terrifying, and left a deep impression on him. That would allow him to quickly break through the Blood Sword inheritance. When he broke through to the 4th level, Lin Xian comprehended the Blood Shadow Doppelganger. He should be able to obtain a new secret technique when he broke through to the 5th level. Sure enough, a new martial art appeared in his mind. Bloodthirsty Frenzy! To be precise, it was a secret technique that allowed a martial artist to burn their blood essence and obtain power beyond their cultivation for a short period of time. It could be said that it was a life-saving method. Furthermore, this method of burning blood essence was much better than the reckless methods of ordinary martial artists. The purpose of the Bloodthirsty Frenzy wasn't to injure or kill a martial artist, but to effectively use blood essence to increase one's strength for a short period of time. Therefore, using the Bloodthirsty Frenzy could allow one to control their blood essence within a reasonable range, and ensure that the martial artist wouldn't be harmed. In other words, if Lin Xian used the Bloodthirsty Frenzy, he would be able to obtain great strength for a short period of time. After that, he would only lose blood essence and would be able to recover by consuming more treasures. His martial arts foundation wouldn't be harmed. This was an extremely powerful method of the Blood Sword Monarch back then. Of course, there was a limit to burning blood essence. If it exceeded the limit of the Bloodthirsty Frenzy, one's foundation would be harmed. Generally speaking, as long as one didn't use blood essence recklessly, nothing would happen. It could be said that the Bloodthirsty Frenzy was an extremely good secret technique. After knowing this, Lin Xian smiled. Now, Lin Xian was no different from a 7th level venerable in terms of defense and attack, except for the fact that the quality of his spiritual energy wasn't as thick as a 7th level venerable. With his great dragon sword soul's powerful combat strength, coupled with the bloodthirsty frenzy, he could erupt with power that far exceeded his own for a short period of time. The combination of the two allowed Lin Xian's combat strength to reach an unbelievable level. Moreover, this was only Lin Xian's own strength. If he used the Great Dragon Sword Soul or the 10,000 Bee Sting, his strength would be even more powerful. Of course, these two items were his last resort. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he wouldn't use them. After putting all the blood swords back into his body, Lin Xian turned to look at Zhao Shui and realized that she seemed to have stopped cultivating. The two of them rested for a while before setting off again. This time, not only did Lin Xian reap great rewards, but Zhao Shui also reaped great rewards. She exhaled softly and a smile appeared on her beautiful face. This dragon ball was indeed a treasure left behind by a monarch. The energy contained within it was simply too great. After absorbing it for a few days, her strength had increased significantly. Her virtual sky eye had also become more solid. Previously, the virtual sky eye was still a little blurry. Now, it was clearer than before. Moreover, from the energy fluctuations it emitted, it was far stronger than before. This made Zhao Shui very happy. The two of them set off again and continued to pursue the heavenly netherbird. However, this time, they didn't walk for long before they felt an intense wave of spiritual energy in front of them. Along with it came the sounds of fierce fighting. Damn it! The people from the Heavenly Bird Palace took the Jade Bodhi and the Ghost Flower! Hurry up and chase, we can't let them escape! Countless angry shouts sounded. Immediately after, a bolt of fiery thunder shot towards Lin Xian like a bolt of lightning. It was very fast, like a flash of lightning. It also carried a hot and violent aura of thunder and fire. Seeing this, Zhao Shui's face darkened. This was because she could naturally see that the purpose of this ray of light was to use her and Lin Xian as a shield to block the pursuers. Obviously, this action angered Zhao Shui. Chapter 1109. With a cold snort, she struck out with her palm. Swoosh! The light flashed very quickly, leaving the people behind her far behind. The owner of the light was a middle-aged man. He originally wanted to use Lin Xian and Zhao Shui as shields, but he did not expect them to attack him. Zhao Shui did not deliberately release her aura before, so the martial artist from the Divine Bird Palace did not know her strength. However, looking at Zhao Shui's young appearance, her cultivation should not be too high. Therefore, seeing Zhao Shui attack at this moment, the middle-aged man from the Divine Bird Palace showed a disdainful smile. However, in the next moment, his pupils shrank and his expression changed drastically. That palm was too terrifying. Not only was the trajectory mysterious, but the energy it contained was even more terrifying. This palm strike could easily kill a 6th heaven honorable martial artist. No matter how high the middle-aged man's cultivation was, he was only a 6th heaven venerable, and could not resist such power. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and could only use a secret technique to stimulate the bloodline power in his body to greatly increase his speed, so that he could dodge the terrifying light palm. Fortunately, he was a martial artist from the Divine Bird clan and had the bloodline power of the Divine Bird in his body. Finally, just as the palm of light was about to hit him, he suddenly sped up and narrowly dodged the palm. Swoosh! His body appeared on the other side. The middle-aged martial artist's face was pale and he breathed a sigh of relief. Then, he glared fiercely at Zhao Shui and was about to leave. At this moment, something strange happened again. Around the middle-aged martial artist, the air fluctuated and blood swords appeared, forming a cage and trapping him. The middle-aged venerable was furious and frantically resisted, but it was to no avail. Not only that, the blood in his body was almost absorbed by these strange blood swords. Seeing this, the middle-aged venerable from the Divine Bird Palace's face darkened. He knew that he had kicked an iron plate this time. Although the two people in front of him were young, their strength was absolutely terrifying. At least they were above him. "Both of you, let's talk nicely. Don't fight anymore." Feeling the increasingly terrifying blood aura, the middle-aged man from the Divine Bird Palace was so scared that his scalp went numb. He could only quickly beg for mercy. However, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui did not react at all. Seeing this situation, the middle-aged martial artist was filled with regret. There were so many directions in all directions. Why didn't he go? Why did he have to pick a direction? Initially, he had wanted to use Lin Xian and Zhao Shui as a shield. Now, it seemed that he had overestimated himself. Such a person was not someone he could provoke at all. Which power did these two young men belong to? It was actually so terrifying. That shouldn't be the case. Even if he was a disciple of the House of Kings, he couldn't possibly be so terrifying. The middle-aged warrior from Divine Bird Palace felt his scalp go numb as he kept thinking. "You too, I am from the Divine Bird Palace. If you let me go, the Divine Bird Palace will reward you handsomely." In the end, the middle-aged martial artist gritted his teeth and revealed his identity. "Divine Bird Palace?" Hearing these words, Lin Xian's lips curled into a mocking smile. Seeing the smile on Lin Xian's face, the middle-aged martial artist's heart skipped a beat. He had a bad premonition rising from the bottom of his heart. "Lin Gongzi, how do we deal with this guy?" Zhao Shui asked coldly. "He seems to have two good treasures in his hands. Why don't we snatch them? Of course we want the treasures. But since this person is from the Divine Bird Palace, let's just kill him." Lin Xian's voice was cold. He and the Divine Bird Palace were mortal enemies. Now that he saw a martial artist from the other side, he naturally would not show mercy. Hearing Lin Xian's words, the middle-aged martial artist's heart sank to the bottom of the sea. However, he would not sit still and wait for his death. "You want to kill me? It's not that easy." The middle-aged martial artist was very decisive. He cut off one of his arms and used a secret technique to form a terrifying explosion of aura. It broke open the blood sword cage formed by Lin Xian. Then, the middle-aged man let out a long howl and increased his speed to the extreme. At the same time, he urged the bloodline power in his body to form two huge wings behind his back. The wings flapped and carried him quickly to the distance. All this happened in an instant. In the next moment, the middle-aged martial artist had already escaped into the distance. The round hole was about to disappear. It could be said that it was not easy for a 6th-level venerable to escape so far in an instant. However, in front of Lin Xian and Zhao Shui, the middle-aged man was destined to suffer. Zhao Shui snorted coldly and waved her hand. Suddenly, a blurry eye appeared above her and shot out a ray of gray light. It instantly pierced through the middle-aged martial artist. The middle-aged martial artist screamed and fell from the sky, landing heavily on the ground. The martial artists who were chasing behind happened to see this scene and immediately stopped. Their eyes were filled with horror. They had just arrived and saw Zhao Shui kill the middle-aged martial artist from the Divine Bird Palace with a raise of her hand. As for the rest, they did not know at all. However, this scene alone was enough to stun them. One had to know that the other party was an expert from the Divine Bird Palace. Moreover, he was a 6th-level venerable. This kind of person could be said to be extremely powerful. However, he was killed with a raise of her hand. This was unbelievable. The most frightening thing was that the other party was young and looked to be of the younger generation. Lin Xian and Zhao Shui did not pay attention to the martial artists who were chasing after them. The two of them began to search for the treasures on the middle-aged martial artist. If they guessed correctly, this middle-aged martial artist should be an elder. He should have many treasures on him. However, Lin Xian searched for a while and sighed slightly. Although the items in the storage ring were indeed treasures in the eyes of others, he was not interested in them at all. He was only a 5th-level venerable, but he had seen too many treasures. Therefore, he did not care about ordinary things at all. However, there were two things that piqued his interest. These two swords were the two treasures that the middle-aged martial artist had just stolen, the jade bodhi and the ghost flower. The jade Bodhi was only the size of a walnut. It was crystal clear and shone with a faint light. Lin Xian examined it, and found that the jade Bodhi had the effect of sobering, calming the mind. It could help the martial artist enter a meditative state. It could help the martial artist maintain a clear mind and not be disturbed by evil spirits. It could be said that it was a treasure that assisted in cultivation. As for the ghost flower's AC, it was a palm-sized flower with a total of 6 petals. On each of the petals, there was a mysterious pattern. Lin Xian knew that this wasn't carved by someone, but by nature. Moreover, he had seen the ghost flower in the inheritance left behind by the Niwa of Gojoseon. It was a flower that could improve one's soul power. It could be said that it was extremely precious. No wonder the martial artists behind them were chasing after them. Not to mention other things, just these 2 treasures were enough to make most of the venerables excited. After Lin Xian figured out the use of these 2 treasures, he said slowly, Chapter 11:10. Miss Zhao, you've been absorbing the energy from the Dragon Ball for the past few days. Although you have the virtual sky eyes, you'll still be affected by the evil energy. This jade Bodhi can eliminate all evil energy. Now that I'm giving it to you, it can suppress the evil energy in the Dragon Ball. If you have the spectral soul, it can increase soul power. It'll be of great help to my martial soul. Why don't you give it to me? Okay. Zhao Shui nodded when she heard Lin Xian's arrangement. She knew that Lin Xian was thinking for her. In the past few days, she had also sensed that even though she possessed the void heaven eyes, she was still being attacked by some evil aura. If she had the jade Bodhi, she could suppress the evil energy and increase the speed at which she absorbed the energy from the Dragon Ball. It could be said that this thing was perfect for her. Zhao Shui smiled and hung the jade Bodhi around her neck. Suddenly, a cool aura was emitted from the jade Bodhi and entered her body, suppressing the evil energy. Zhao Shui's body trembled and she felt much more relaxed. Lin Xian smiled when he saw the changes in Zhao Shui. The fact that the other party was able to suppress the evil killing aura was undoubtedly good news for him. With a smirk, he kept the specter flower in his storage ring. The ghost flower had the effect of increasing one's soul power. It was very useful to him. This ghost flower would allow Lin Xian's soul power to rise to another level. Furthermore, it would further strengthen his great dragon sword soul. However, Lin Xian did not consume it immediately. He wanted to use it when the time was right. Lin Xian and Zhao Shui's actions caused the group of warriors behind them to be unhappy. Suddenly, a cold snort came from behind them. Lin Xian frowned when he heard this. He turned around and looked behind him. Not far behind, there was a group of warriors. Their faces were gloomy and filled with murderous intent. At the very front of these people stood 2 figures. Clearly, these 2 people were the leaders of these people. Who are you? What are you doing here? Zhao Shui asked coldly. Hearing this, the faces of those martial artists became even gloomier. The woman in the lead snorted coldly and quickly said, We are the Li family, one of the 8 great families under Prince Ling Feng. May I know who you are? This woman was called Li Jia, and she was the most outstanding successor of the Li family's younger generation. Her cultivation had already reached the 6th heavenly layer of the Venerable Realm. Isn't it a little inappropriate for the 2 of you to take away our things without saying a word? At this moment, another person beside the Li family spoke. It was a bald young man who had also reached the 6th heaven of the Honorable Realm. And who are you? Lin Xian asked with a frown. I am Sun Tao, a disciple of the Sun family, a subordinate of Prince Ling Feng. He was indeed a member of the Sun family, and was also the most outstanding disciple of the Sun family. Originally, the 2 families had discovered a ruin here and found 2 treasures, the Jade Bodhi and the Ghost Flower, but they did not expect that the hidden Divine Bird Palace martial artists would snatch them away. Therefore, they tried their best to chase after them, and what happened next was the scene that Lin Xian and the rest encountered. These people from the 8 great families did not expect Lin Xian and Zhao Xian to be so fierce. They killed the martial artists of the Divine Bird Palace in an instant, and divided the treasures among them. How could they tolerate such a thing? After all, those two treasures were extremely precious. Although they were shocked by the strength of Lin Xian and Zhao Shui, they had the advantage in numbers, so if a fight really broke out, they were not afraid. What 8 great families? I've never heard of them. Zhao Shui said unhappily. These things are our spoils of war. When did they become yours? Humph, those people from the Divine Bird Palace snatched our things. Of course they are ours. Li Jia gritted her teeth and said. Snatched? Zhao Shui sneered. How dare you say that the things that were snatched belong to you? Ridiculous. Without us, those people from the Divine Bird Palace would have escaped long ago. Do you think that with your strength, you can catch up with them? So, I advise you to get lost quickly, otherwise don't blame me for being rude. The other martial artists might be intimidated by their reputation, but it had no effect on Zhao Shui at all. Hearing Zhao Shui's words, the disciples of the two families trembled with anger. They looked at Zhao Shui one by one, wanting to kill her. They were too angry. After all, their families were the strongest under Prince Ling Feng, and no one dared to look down on them. But now, someone dared to scold them, and they could not tolerate it. The bald young man, Sun Tao, stared at Lin Xian and said coldly, Boy, you'd better persuade your companions to obediently hand over the things in your hands, and I won't make things difficult for you. Otherwise, you know the consequences. Although they were very angry, they did not want to act rashly. After all, there was danger at any time in the secret territory, so they tried not to act if they could. Moreover, they wanted to use their reputation and strength to intimidate the other party, so that they would obediently hand over the things in their hands. However, it was obvious that he had found the wrong person. When Lin Xian heard the bald man's warning, he sneered. My companions have a good temper, and they only asked you to scram. If you anger me, I'll kill you immediately. So you'd better scram. Lin Xian's words stunned the people on the other side. They did not expect that someone would dare to threaten them. How many years had it been since something like this happened? Where did this boy come from? How dare he boast so shamelessly, and even say that he wants to kill us? He's courting death. Did you come from the mountains? Don't you know that we are the 8 great families? You have to know that we are the most powerful family under young Master Ling Feng. Boy, didn't your elders tell you before you left? That's right, how dare he look down on us? I'll cut him into 8 pieces later. The martial artist shouted angrily. Lin Xian's eyes were cold. Then, he flicked his finger, and countless blood-red sword auras flew out from between his fingers, piercing through the martial artists who had spoken arrogantly. Poof! 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 Instantly, a bloody hole appeared between the eyebrows of the martial artists who had cursed the most fiercely, and their bodies fell weakly to the ground. Seeing this, everyone's pupils shrank, and their eyes were filled with horror. Sun Tao and Li Jia, who were leading the group, were especially shocked. This was because they knew that the disciples they had brought with them were the elite disciples of their families, and they were extremely powerful. However, the other party had killed all of them with just a flick of his finger. Wasn't this method a little too terrifying? Boy, how dare you kill our people? Are you tired of living? Sun Tao gritted his teeth and said. Humph, I even dared to kill Lu Yil, let alone you. Lin Xian showed a trace of disdain. What? Kill Lu Yil? Hearing this, Sun Tao and the beautiful woman were stunned. Then, they seemed to have thought of something, and their faces changed. Chapter 11:11. They pointed at Lin Xian as their bodies trembled. You're that Lin Xian? That's right. That's me, Lin Xian said proudly. When these words were spoken, everyone was in an uproar. They all looked forward, their expressions shaken. They weren't unfamiliar with this name because they'd received an order earlier that if they encountered Lin Xian in the hidden sky realm, they were to immediately kill him without mercy and leave no one alive. Not because of anything else, but because the other party had killed Lu Lai. Lu Yio was just like them. He was a genius disciple of the 8 great families. However, Prince Ling Feng valued Lu Yio's sister, and she had become the young master's woman. Therefore, the Ryu family's status had risen, and Lu Yio's status was even more honorable. Moreover, the kill order had been issued by Lu Yio's sister, Lu Mei. However, they did not expect to meet Lin Xian here. "Brat, I didn't expect to meet you here. Since you dared to kill Lu Yio, you're dead meat. Humph, I advise you to give up. Perhaps you'll die a quick death. Otherwise, you won't have a good ending if you offend the young master." The flirtatious woman sneered. "Did you know that the kill order was issued by Lu Mei? She's the young master's woman. Do you think you can escape?" Li Jia was very confident because no one who offended Prince Ling Feng could survive. Lin Xian was no exception. She was just a woman. There was nothing to be afraid of. Lin Xian shook his head slightly. He was not bothered. Indeed, he was not bothered. Now that his strength had increased greatly, he would not be afraid even if he faced a 7th-level honorable. Moreover, this was only the beginning. If he could obtain even more treasures, his strength would increase again. At that time, he wouldn't care about young Master Ling Feng anymore. "You're boasting shamelessly. Today, I'll take your life. If we get your head, we'll definitely be rewarded greatly. So, you can die in peace. Attack!" The bald man, Sun Tao, also shouted coldly. Then, his body released a powerful aura. With a flick of his finger, a high-quality sword appeared in his hand. As he waved his arm, the long sword vibrated and emitted a dazzling light. In an instant, a sharp sword sheath slashed forward. "Do you need help?" Zhao Shui asked. "No need, it's just a few small fries." Lin Xian shook his head slightly. It just so happened that he had recently increased his strength and hadn't fought yet. Now was a good time to use them as practice. As Lin Xian chatted with Zhao Shui, he clenched his fist and countless rays of blood-red light gathered to form a blood-red sword. The sword expanded rapidly and slashed out fiercely. As soon as the blood-red longsword appeared, the void trembled, and an endless murderous aura filled the air. A bright red sword light blossomed like a long river of blood, making one's scalp go numb. Facing Sun Tao, Lin Xian didn't take out a weapon at all. He only used his spirit power to condense a sword chi. However, this sword was too terrifying. Bang! In the next moment, the two sword lights collided in the air and let out a deafening sound. Then, in front of everyone's shocked eyes, Sun Tao's long sword flew out of his hand and he spat out blood as if he had suffered a heavy blow. "What? How is this possible?" Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. As for Li Jia, she screamed with a face full of disbelief. That was because Sun Tao's strength was similar to hers. They were both 6th heaven venerables. Such strength could be said to be extremely powerful among the younger generation. Even some of the older generation weren't a match for them. However, Sun Tao was defeated in a single move. Moreover, it was a crushing defeat. She couldn't believe it. "I don't believe it. I don't believe it. This must be a coincidence." Li Jia shook her head and her eyes were filled with disbelief. She bit her lip so hard that it almost tore. In the next moment, she made up her mind and quickly attacked. Careless. Sun Tao must have been careless. That's why this kid succeeded. I'll go all out this time. I don't believe that kid can block it. Humph, he's just a 5th heaven venerable's kid. How strong can he be? Li Jia quickly calmed down and a ferocious smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. She had already seen Lin Xian's cultivation. He was only a 5th heaven venerables. Moreover, she believed that Sun Tao must have been careless just now. That was why his opponent succeeded. However, this time, she wouldn't be careless. Die, brat! Li Jia quickly waved her palms and palm shadows flickered in the air. They connected and imprinted in the void. Immediately, the world trembled and the sound of mountains collapsing erupted in the void. Then, a terrifying force quickly surged out and pressed down on Lin Xian. The force was too terrifying. It was as if a tyrannosaurus was rampaging in the palace, causing the entire sky to tremble. One had to admit that Li Jiao was very strong. She was definitely a top existence among the younger generation. Even the older generation was inferior to her. However, it was a pity that she met Lin Xian, who was even stronger and more monstrous than her. Looking at the shocking palm shadows, Lin Xian was expressionless. Then, he raised his arm and countless blood-red sword chi revolved around his palm. They quickly intertwined and formed a huge blood-red cauldron. The huge cauldron was completely formed by sword chi. It emitted a red light as if there was blood flowing on it. Accompanying it was an unusually fierce aura and a thick, murderous aura. In the next moment, Lin Xian threw out the blood-red sword cauldron in his hand. Rumble! As soon as the blood-red sword cauldron appeared, the void trembled as if it would collapse at any time. The blood-red light even dyed the entire sky red. In the next moment, the blood-red sword cauldron quickly shuttled through the air and collided with the palm shadows that filled the sky. In the blink of an eye, the two collided. However, the shocking thing was that the collision didn't stop at all. In the next moment, the blood-red sword cauldron directly tore apart the palm shadows that filled the sky and crashed towards Li Jiao with an even more terrifying momentum. What? That's impossible! Seeing this scene, Li Jiao finally screamed in horror. She couldn't believe that the palm shadows that she had unleashed with all her might had been easily torn apart by Lin Xian as if they were paper. This was completely beyond her understanding. However, just as she was in a daze, the blood-red sword cauldron ruthlessly struck her body and sent her flying. Pfft! Li Jiao was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. At the same time, she continuously vomited blood and was severely injured. 2 moves. In just 2 moves, Lin Xian was severely injured like 2 6th-level supremacies. This scene stunned the remaining cultivators. That was a 6th-level supremacies. They were extremely powerful existences. However, they were sent flying like flies. They couldn't believe it at all. No, that's impossible. I don't believe it. Brother Sun Tao and Sister Li Jia are the most powerful existences in our younger generation. How could they lose? Damn it! Who exactly is this kid? How can he be so powerful? Is he really from the younger generation? Why do I feel like he's a peerless old monster? This kid is too powerful. Should we run? When the disciples of the Sun family and Li family saw this scene, they trembled in fear. Chapter 11-12. On the other side, Lin Xian stopped in satisfaction. To be honest, the power of the blood-red sword chi had exceeded his expectations. Although he knew that it would not be difficult for him to defeat a 6th-level honorable, he was still excited when he actually sent a 6th-level honorable flying. That was a 6th-level honorable. Not long ago, he was still an existence that he could only look up to. Now, he could send a 6th-level honorable flying with a raise of his hand. This kind of huge improvement made him feel proud and lofty. Lin Xian glanced at the severely injured Li Jia and Sun Tao and shook his head slightly. He didn't kill him, but thinking about it, with the other party's injuries, it was impossible for him to pose any threat to him. As for the remaining martial artists, he would not attack them because they were not worthy of his attention. However, he still had a few questions to ask. This jade Bodhi and ghost flower, where did you get them? Lin Xian stared at a disciple in front of him and asked in a low voice. There is a cave in front. It should have been left behind by a powerful martial artist. The disciple trembled as he forced himself to speak. He was extremely afraid that Lin Xian would kill him in a fit of anger. Fortunately, Lin Xian only asked a few questions and did not attack him. After finding out where the 2 treasures had been unearthed, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui left the place and headed towards the mysterious cave. Seeing Lin Xian and Zhao Shui leave, the disciples of the Sun family and Li family turned pale. What should we do? Are we going to let them go just like that? What can we do? Didn't you see that brother Sun Tao and sister Li Jia are injured? We are no match for them. Damn it, I can't accept this. Don't worry, that kid will be unlucky. Looking at his questions just now, he must not have given up. I think he must have gone to the mysterious cave. Given their personalities, they'll definitely covet those treasures when the time comes. However, there are people from the Murong family in the cave. When the time comes, there will definitely be a conflict between the two parties. No matter how strong that kid is, he can't beat the Murong family. Therefore, he will be unlucky soon. Really? If that's the case, that would be great. I really want to see how this kid will react when he is defeated by the Murong family. The group of disciples sneered. In the end, they quickly ran forward and helped Sun Tao and Li Jia up. Sister Li Jia, how are you? Brother Sun Tao, don't scare me. A group of people ran forward and looked at Sun Tao and Li Jia worriedly. Their storage rings had already been taken away, so they could only take the pills from the disciples next to them and quickly swallow them. It was only after a long time that the two of them regained their color. However, there was still a trace of fear in their eyes. Sun Tao, in particular, had a very ugly expression. As a genius disciple of the Sun family, he was usually proud and arrogant, not putting anyone in his eyes. Even in the face of an elder, he was not afraid. But now, he was actually defeated in a single move. That blood-red sword chi was too terrifying, and he still had lingering fears. Don't provoke him anymore. This kid's sword chi is the sharpest I have ever seen. We are no match for him at all. Therefore, the matter of hunting him down should be left to the people of the Lu clan. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Sun Tao was also a swordsman, and his swordsmanship was very sharp. Even the elders admitted that they were not as good as him. However, such a genius actually admitted that he was not as good as someone else. They had never seen such a situation before. One had to know that Sun Tao was very conceited. No matter how strong he is, I'm afraid that he can't be compared to the people from the Deity Sword Villa. After all, that is the sect with the strongest swordsmanship in the continent. Just wait, the people from the Deity Sword Villa are also in that cave. A disciple sneered. Indeed, the Deity Sword Villa is the sect with the strongest swordsmanship in the Tianwu continent. They are also known as the sect that is closest to the House of Kings. I have also fought with the people from the Deity Sword Villa. They are extremely sharp and far surpass their peers. However, I feel that they are not as good as Lin Xian. What? Even the people from the Deity Sword Villa are not as good as Lin Xian? How is that possible? Li Jia screamed at the side. Although I don't want to admit it, it is the truth. When Li Jia heard this, her face turned pale. Then, she snorted. Humph, let the people from the Murong family take care of this kid. Lin Xian and Zhao Shui did not know what these people were thinking. The two of them flew forward and arrived near the mysterious cave. Lin Xian extended his soul power and sensed it. Then he frowned. The cave was huge, as if a city had been built in the mountain. Judging from the situation inside, it should have been a cave of an ancient elite. However, it had become a ruin. In the cave, there were countless figures fighting and fighting fiercely. With so many people, there must be a lot of treasures. Lin Xian smiled. He and Zhao Shui looked at each other and smiled. Then, their bodies flashed, and they flew into the cave. As soon as they entered the cave, they encountered a fierce battle. A group of people surrounded a piece of black metal and fought fiercely. Get lost, we have taken over this place. Why? We found the dark thunderwood first. Another group of people was not convinced. Why? Because we are Prince Lingfeng's subordinates. This voice was very arrogant. When they heard the other party's voice, the martial artists who were clamoring shrank their heads and fear appeared in their eyes. Prince Lingfeng's strength was well known in the mainland. They did not expect that these people were Prince Lingfeng's subordinates. So what if he is Prince Lingfeng? We are Prince Annel's men. At this time, another force joined in. They were very strong and were not afraid of Prince Lingfeng's forces. Prince Annel was one of the 4 Tianwu princes. He was also an existence that could summon wind and rain in the mainland. Therefore, these people had nothing to fear. When they heard this, The people who first found the dark thunderwood quietly retreated. Whether it was Prince Ling Feng or Prince Anil, they were not people they could fight against. These two forces were at odds with each other. Their strength and status were similar. No one was willing to give way. It seemed that a great battle was about to break out. However, at this time, a light flashed and the dark thunderwood that was in the center of the crowd suddenly disappeared. What? It disappeared! Disappeared? How is that possible? It must be you guys who did it! Prince Ling Feng's men shouted. We did it! Why do I feel like you guys stole it? Prince Anil's men were also anxious. The two forces fought and then started fighting. The instigator, the snow-white little monkey, had already left. Zhao Shui looked at the snow-white little monkey in surprise. To be exact, she looked at the small broken bowl in its hand. She did not expect this small bowl to have such a magical function. However, in the next moment, she smiled faintly and quickly used her void sky eyes. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.